All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Braintree Planning Board meeting for August 12th, 2025. We are being broadcast on BCAM TV, Braintree's local broadcasting channel, and the meeting is available on YouTube. As you can see, we're here in Braintree Town Hall. We don't have a full board tonight. Two of our members, Member Conley and Kane, are not able to be here this evening. Any matters that are here tonight and voted on at a later date, they plan to do the rule that allows them to watch and participate that way. But the voting members for anything that gets voted upon tonight are myself, Member McCamey, Member Kent, and Member Kinahan. So with that, we will start as we normally do with our old new business, and then we can move on to our public hearings at 7:15. I do just want to start and say a little congratulations to Braintree American if you somehow haven't heard about the Braintree making the Little League World Series. Their first game is Thursday at 3, and it's super exciting. So congratulations to all of them, the teammates and the parents and everybody. All right, so now we'll move on. The first item on our old new business is the extension of grading permit, which is Planning Board File 2405, 9 John Paul Circle. Are we tabling that one, or do we have?
Nope. No, we are here. We can discuss that.
Okay,
tonight.
that one's just the extension. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Can you give us an update on that one?
So since the last planning board meeting, at the last planning board meeting, the applicant who is here tonight, Mr. Chase Almy, and I believe he is here also with his civil engineer. The planning board requested 3 changes to the plan. Those changes were to move the...
Well, that one, hold on, Almy's the King Hill, right?
Yes. Oh.
So the 9 John Paul Circle.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I pulled the wrong thing. 9 John Paul. I apologize. 9 John Paul. So since our last planning board meeting, it has come to my attention that John Paul Circle last August received a grading permit. No work has been done to date. Within that decision, there was condition 6 that gave a expiration date to that permit to January 9th, 2025. The homeowner who I've spoken to had a tough time procuring a contractor that they felt comfortable with, and no work has transpired. The applicant has now hired a contractor to install the work, and they came in for a building permit. When I reviewed that decision, I just flagged this condition, and I just want to be above board and bring that to the attention of the planning board. I did do a site visit. I met with the owners of the house. I met with the applicant. Everything seems like they're ready to go to move forward and do that work as soon as possible. They already have filed for a building permit. However, I cannot issue that and because of this condition. So tonight, I would just ask the planning board to discuss and to take up action to extend by 6 months from today, August 12th, that permit so that work can transpire.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the board? No? All right, with that, just be looking for a motion to extend the permit completion date for a year from tonight, for 6 months from tonight.
So moved.
Motion by Member Kent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. All right. And the next thing that we have here is the request for as-built approval, release of surety for Planning Board File 1406. That's 911 Independence Ave.
Thank you very much. So 9 to 11 Independence Ave is here represented tonight by attorney Michael Monastino. This project dates back to 2015. In March of 2015, the Braintree Planning Board approved the project that proposed and developed 34 units at 9 to 11 Independence Ave. Currently, that project is completed. Right now, the Planning Board holds about $120,000 of surety. The project developer, whose name is Thomas Fitzgerald, has relinquished the development over to the homeowner association. We, the town of Braintree, the planning board, has been holding the surety. They submitted an as-built plan. I went out to do an inspection, and I found that there was a couple dead trees in the property, and that need to be replaced. And/or the landscaping, the approved landscaping plan, I believe the intent was respected. The intent of that plan was respected at the time of planting. However, some of the trees have obviously fallen into disrepair and/or have died. The landscaping along Independence Ave is healthy, it's mature, it's obviously taken. The landscaping in the rear, I can't say the same. It's dead. And so there's four trees specifically in the 2 landscaping beds within the rear parking lot, which are dead. So therefore, we need to, it's up for discussion on what the next steps are. I believe, and my recommendation is that probably should let go and release some of the surety, but the discussion point tonight is what should we do with the existing landscaping, and how should we treat it? And so through you to chair, I would open it up for discussion with Attorney Modestino representing the applicant.
Okay, great, thank you. Attorney Modestino, good evening.
I didn't represent him 6 years ago, it's only recently, so I don't know the complete history like some other people do. But I did go over to the property with Peter, and we saw it. Obviously, there's some things that could be done over there. The problem is that there's a lot of money out there, and it's been sitting there for a fairly long period of time. My client would like to see all or most of that money released at this point. He's not really allowed to go back in the property. He doesn't own it, he's not managing the property, he built it, and that's about it. I do have a fellow, George Clements, who worked as the manager of the construction, and he knows more about what happened and what can be done and what can't be done, and I'd ask him to come up here and address the board as well.
Okay.
Good evening, George Clements. I know a lot of you members probably didn't sit on this application back in 2015, but just basically the project came in, received approvals in February of 2015 for 35 condo units. Project started. There were some issues. Mr. McCamey is familiar with them because I do remember Mr. McCamey sitting on the board. So there were issues. I was brought on to act as, to assist Tom Fitzgerald, the owner, in completing the project, shaking out some of the issues that were present at that time. We came back, we sought and received some modifications back in, I guess that would have been 2019. Yeah, April of 2019. So this isn't a typical as-built surety for an as-built plan. What happened is, through this board, they came up with, there was a level of distrust between this board and the developer. So what everybody agreed upon is that we should, because the units needed to be conveyed. So we came up and I worked closely with Melissa Santucci and this board, and we said, look, we can start conveying the units, but let's create a line item punch list of certain items that need to be done. I did that very closely with Melissa back in May of 2019. We established the amounts for the specific items. That work was completed, it was inspected. Landscaping, just so we're all clear, that landscaping was actually signed off and was not part of the bonding process. Now I understand, we're many years down the line here, and it's not an unwillingness to replace a few trees in the scheme of $122,000. It's a $300 tree, so that's not really the issue. But the issue is we don't have the legal right to go on somebody else's property at this point and replace trees. Just not something we can legally do. A compromise maybe, We'll give you, if there's 4 trees, and again, this is just kind of in the spirit of cooperation as we see it. I think the first thing is probably a letter from Peter to the association noting that, hey, you're obligated to the conditions of this. You haven't adhered to them. But it's been 7 years, so we'd like to get all of our money back. And if you want to negotiate maybe 4 trees, I think the established tree ordinance is $300 a tree. You can keep $1,200, allocate that for the replacement. But I think the conditions are clear, and that's their responsibility to maintain that landscaping, which they haven't, but we certainly don't want to insert ourselves into that.
Why did it take 6 years for the as-built? What was the...
Well, it actually didn't take 6 years for the as-built. We actually recorded the as-built on September of 2021, I believe. And it's just one of those things that fell off, busy elsewhere. So no real secret as to why. We were working on many other projects, worked closely with Melissa, and she said, let's just kick it down the line. So we agreed to do that, but it's a lot of money to have sitting for such an extended period of time, so.
And has there been any discussions with the association?
No, I mean, other than when Peter and I met out there, Peter and myself and Mike met on site, I said, look, let me talk to Tom, see if the association will let us plant those trees. No response from them. So I think really the best step is to enforce the conditions that are recorded and are the obligation of the condo association.
And is there anyone here from the association for 911 Independence Avenue this evening? No. Okay. Member McCamey, do you have any questions, comments?
This was certainly a difficult project to get through, as Mr. Clements remembers, for many reasons. And now we have another difficult situation. But I think that's a reasonable approach. Talk to the homeowners association. If you want to fund the trees in advance out of the escrow, that's fine. It seems reasonable to me. Yeah, thank you.
Member Kent?
I'm fine with that.
Member Kinahan? All right. And Director, do you have a sense of what the scope of I'm not asking you to estimate the cost of the landscaping, but, you were out there. Does it seem more like 4 trees, or does it seem like a bigger scope of work that needs to be done?
No, there was a couple trees. I would say there was 4 obvious trees. Obviously, there was 2 others I can make note of that were kind of there, but flown, maybe not have taken successfully. So, and I can't sit here and just price. I don't really know how much a tree costs or X, Y, and Z. I would feel better if we just put a number on it. $5,000-$10,000 we hold back, and then we can release the rest, and then we can cross that bridge. I think it's all, is it the town? I think it's also a little bit of a responsibility of the applicant to send a letter to the homeowner association to kind of bring them into the conversation. I'm happy to do it. It's going to take some legwork just to find out who the homeowner association is comprised of. But I think the landscaping's there. Obviously, the planting plan was respected. It's just not, some things have not taken, and I just, and I think that's just a fact.
Right. Mm-hmm. When you said the association didn't get back to Mr. Fitzgerald, do you know how he reached out to them? I mean, the trustees should be available as recorded information for who the
Yeah, no, he knows the association. I'm assuming he made a phone call and sent an email. And again, we'll continue to do that, but $10,000 is just too much to hold over a few trees. We're trying to find a balance here. And, again, I think the record's clear. It is the association's responsibility to maintain that, and it goes so far to say in the conditions that there's annual inspections, and there's no surprise. I mean, I think the design was flawed personally. These trees in these small islands, of course, they're going to get ruined with snow and plowing and salt. So it may be that the board, that the association wants to change that out. But, you know, we want to be instrumental and help, but we're not going to, I mean, $10,000 is an outrageous amount of money for trees. I think that's a little penal.
Part of its design was flawed. You know, you do stack up snow, but, you know, you could put the trees elsewhere on the property. There's a huge lawn that you can kind of plant them. But it is what it is at this point, right?
Sure.
I just don't know how much a tree costs, what the planting is.
If I can suggest, the town has a tree ordinance that says a tree is $300. So I think that's really what we should be looking at, is if the town ordinance says a tree replacement is $300, if you can't replace them, then we have 4 trees, that's $1,200.
Yeah, I think that's one way to look at it. I mean, the other, there's a little bit of a hesitancy to say, okay, let's return all of the surety money because the condition wasn't met because of its defective plan and it wasn't an area that trees could grow. You know, I'm not saying that's exactly what you're saying, but I think, you know, I think I would be comfortable with 4,000 or 5,000 and then put it on the developer asking for the refund of the money, to send a letter to the association saying, we've been told that you need to comply with this landscaping. There's whatever amount of money we agree with here tonight at the town of Braintree to satisfy this. And, you know, we're willing to help you come up with a plan that works so that the landscaping, the intent of the plan is reached, you know, up to that cap of money. I mean, I understand that I'll say the developer just because you're all different people up here, but the developer probably doesn't have any legal liability to the association at this point, but we're in this position where we are being requested to sign off on something that from a site visit we see doesn't meet what it was supposed to, whether or not that's the passage of time or whatever else.
Yeah, no, and quite frankly, you know, we're willing to throw, you know, if it's $4,000, shame on us. We should have done a quicker lesson learned, and we'll be on top of that a lot faster. So if we can agree to $4,000, and then, you know, you folks want to enforce that condition, at least you have $4,000 to replace the trees if they don't respond. But, you know, that's kind of what we're looking at as a fair and reasonable solution to it.
Any other thoughts? No? All right, so just to be clear, so we'll vote, but the proposal is we'll return everything but the $4,000. Mr. Fitzgerald or Attorney Modestino or whoever on your team will reach out, send a letter to the association describing what happened, letting them know the money's there, and letting them know that they need to put landscaping in the spirit of the original approval.
Sure.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay, so I think with that, we'll be looking for a motion for partial release of the surety, withholding $4,000.
So moved.
Motion by Member Kent. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right. Next item on our old new business is approval of meeting minutes for July 8, 2025. Thank you, Louise. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the minutes? All right, I'll be looking for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Member Kinahan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. All right, and we are past 7:15, so now we can move into the new public hearings. These ones, unlike the other ones, are public hearings, so they will be open for public comment, and you know, we'll go through some of that when the public comment period starts, but you state your name and address for the record, and then we just ask so everybody has a chance. The number one rule is just be respectful and try to stay on point with the comments, and we will be taking them, and we have received written correspondence on a few of the items on our agenda here this evening. But with that, we'll move to the first public hearing, which is 10 Plain Street, Planning Board File 2506. That's the Braintree Apartments venture that's up on the screen. And I'll just turn it over to Director Matchak, if you could read the legal description, please.
Yes, please give me a second. Thank you. Notice is given by the Planning Board under the provisions of the Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 9 and 11, and the Braintree Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 135, Articles 1, 2, 6, 7, 8, and 11, and 14, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, August 12th, 2025 at 7:15 p.m. Braintree Town Hall. The Planning Board will consider the application for site plan review filed by Braintree Apartments Ventures LLC, doing business as Trammell Crow Residential applicant. The applicant is seeking to construct a 752-unit multifamily development as shown on the filed plans used by right under Braintree Zoning Ordinance, Section 135, 616, MBTA Communities Multifamily Overlay District, also known as MCOOD. The project includes 2 phases. The first phase will include 427 units within 5 buildings. Within 5 4-story buildings with surface parking and 4-story buildings with surface parking and 5 single-story detached garage structures for covered parking. The second phase will include 325 units within 1 4-story building with an integrated parking garage. Site landscaping, lighting, parking, and stormwater improvements will be made throughout the site. The property is located at 10 Plain Street, zoned commercial and within the MBTA Community Multifamily Overlay District, MBTA 2 Red Line South, shown on Assessor's Map 1031, Plot 5, and Assessor's Map 1031, Plot 1, with the development area of 30.554 acres. To review the application, the Planning Department and Community Development in Town Hall at 1 JFK Memorial Drive on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 8:30 to 4:30, Tuesday from 8:30 to 7, and Friday from 8:30 to 1. All information is available on the town website.
Thank you. All right, with that, turned over to the applicant.
Good evening, Chair Croha and members of the Planning Board. For the record, Frank Marinelli. I'm pleased to appear on behalf of Trammell Crow Residential, TCR, this evening in its application to develop 752 luxury Class A apartment homes with 58% open space and substantial amenities, which will be an amazing transformation of the former 30-acre Armstrong factory site into an approximate $300 million investment in Braintree with significant natural features. We have a PowerPoint presentation, so we'll try to keep up with these. That's our table of contents, what we're going to present tonight with the development team. This is our development team. We have worked diligently over the past year with the town to develop the plans that are before you. With us are the development team who will be presenting this evening, Mark Baranski of Trammell Crow. Also here are Emily White and Kevin Saperco of Trammell Crow, architect Steve Shelter of Bergman Hendry, civil engineer Nick Delacava of Allen & Major, landscape architect Abby Derrick of Copley Wolf Design, wetlands expert Andrew Tebow of Goddard Consulting, and traffic engineer Bob Michow of MDM Transportation Consultants. The applicant, TCR, is the largest private residential developer in the country and has the expertise and the resources to redevelop the former Armstrong site. The question is often asked, is the development by right? And what does that mean? The proposal is by right under zoning, as was read in the legal notice. With Red Line and commuter rail, Braintree is an MBTA community. In 2023, the Braintree Town Council created a 127-acre Red Line South district, which includes the site. The stated purpose of the council's ordinance, section 616, is, quote, to allow multifamily housing by right, end quote. And by right is defined in the ordinance as development of multifamily housing, quote, without the need for a special permit, variance, zoning amendment, waiver, or other discretionary zoning approval, end quote. The only zoning approval process is called site plan review, defined as, quote, the regulation of a use and not its outright prohibition, end quote. Site plan review is limited to reasonable conditions, not conditions that would impose unreasonable delay of a by right project or make a by right project and proposal infeasible or impractical to proceed. So that is the zoning backdrop. The proposal, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Board, does not require a single variance from what is allowed in Section 616. Everything complies. Focusing on the site, there's the before and the after. The 30-acre site is bordered easterly by Mahar Highway. I guess it's in, but anyway, Mahar Highway is over to the right, and then you have commuter rail tracks as well. Southerly, it's bordered by Plain Street, and westerly by commuter rail tracks and Hancock Street. Armstrong Industries vacated and sold the site almost 30 years ago. Current uses at the site are a very busy registry of motor vehicles and a busy Bay State gym. As stated on page 1 of the MDM traffic report for the residences, quote, daily trip changes are de minimis relative to existing site uses, end quote, in terms of vehicle trips. With TCR's redevelopment, and we'll show you this, all of the old buildings and structures will be demolished, including the factory blight that you see. All of it will be demolished. The residences will have hundreds of new trees, and they will have, in addition to hundreds of shrubs and landscaping as will be presented. And the project will also preserve existing mature trees to the extent possible. An additional public walking trail will be constructed that augments the recently completed Manatequit River Boardwalk. And if you haven't been out there, we can show you just briefly. This is the boardwalk that exists, and it's pretty amazing, the natural features and getting the Manatequit River flowing once the dam was removed. The Manatequit Restoration Project removed the Armstrong and Ames Pond dams, got the river flowing through the site, and then it marks the first time in 200 years, that's the fish ladder right there, first time in 200 years that river herring can reach the new fish ladder and swim to waters beyond. That's right down the westerly half of the site, as you'll see on the site plan. So it's an amazing, unique site, integrating residential by one of the nation's best with natural features and the restoration project and the public boardwalk, and we're augmenting that public boardwalk. The proposed residential layout is as follows. There are two phases, and they're shown right here in blue and rose color. The first phase in blue is largely the western portion of the site, a total of 5 buildings and 427 residences with occupancy by mid-2028. And the buildings down below are known as 1A and 1B, lower in blue, up above 2, 3, and then over to the left, number 4. The building to the right is phase 2, and that is the easterlymost building by Mahar, and it's shown as building 5, and that's 325 residences with pool, amenities, interior garage, and occupancy by mid-2029, a year after phase 1. The existing ingress and egress to and from Plain Street down in the lower left half of the exhibit here will be pulled back further from the Plain Street and Hancock Street intersection, so you're creating even more capacity back from the signal at that intersection. The residences provide bicycle parking and storage and electric vehicle charging stations. Concerning compliance with zoning, here's the table. It's on sheet C102. The project engineer, Nick Delacava, will also talk about it. By the way, all of this information, all of the plans, all of the reports, all of the materials are readily available to the public on the Planning Board website, current applications, and also on our website, hollingsworthpond.com. There is a lot of information. As you can see from the zoning table, up to 30 apartment homes are allowed per acre. That's the second block up from the bottom. 30 per acre, and a total of over 900 residences would be possible. TCR's development of 752 residences is about 80% of allowable. 80% of allowable with the 752. The site will have approximately 58% open space, which, as you can see from the table, the 58% is almost twice as much as the required 30% under zoning. 2.4 additional acres of open space are created with demolition and removal of impervious. Maximum allowed lot coverage is 70%. The residences have only about 42% lot coverage. Maximum allowed building coverage is 60%. The residences have far less, just over 20%, about a third of what is allowed. Parking complies, 1.5 parking spaces per residence. Here, 1,129 parking spaces, complying with zoning. The town has discussed putting some of that into reserve to augment green space, and then if the additional parking, about 70 or so spaces are necessary, they could be used. Over the past year, we've had many meetings, including with department heads. Most recently, June 10th, we had a meeting with the department heads coordinated by the planning department, and the team had additional meetings with police and fire department, most recently on July 17th. TCR held a community meeting on June 24th at the site, requested and attended by Councilor Berica. The councilor said she emailed over 1,000 people. Anyone interested, again, can find all of the information readily available, the plans, the 48 sheets of plans, and all of our reports at the Planning Board's website under current applications, and all of that will be discussed in depth this evening. In the weeks ahead, all TCR expert reports, traffic, stormwater, and fiscal analysis will be peer-reviewed by experts engaged by the town. The fiscal report for the residences was filed yesterday, and it's a very positive report. As shown in the report, the assessment for the residences is expected to be approximately $300 million. I think it's about $291 million stated in the report at completion. Gross real estate tax revenue each year to the town will be approximately $3 million, with net revenue to the town each year in the range of $1.2 to $1.9 million. In addition, one-time revenue from building permits is approximately $3 million for total Phase 1 and Phase 2 building permits, and approximately another $1 million total for Phase 1 water and sewer connection fees. The residences install and maintain and repair their own site drives and provide their own snow plowing and trash removal, not requiring municipal services. In the weeks ahead, TCR will be seeking an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission, and we look forward to continuing the Planning Board meetings, perhaps more frequently than the monthly, as discussed with the Planning Director, and perhaps on designated topics once the peer reviews come in and are responded to by the development team. We would certainly be amenable to that. So with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mark Baranski of Trammell Crow Residential for some background on TCR and TCR's enthusiasm to develop this unique site. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Croha, members of the Planning Board, and members of the public. Thank you for coming. As you can imagine from our council's presentation, we're very excited to be here and presenting this project. This is a transformative opportunity for a site that has been primarily industrial since 1643. So long time in the making, and we're very excited to make this happen. I'm going to provide some information on our company to give you comfort and knowledge in our capacity and capabilities. As Councilor Marinelli said, we are the largest privately held developer in the United States. We've actually been doing residential development for about 75 years, which probably makes us one of the older firms out there. Don't know that that really matters. Age is not a testament to anything but perhaps wisdom. We are very good at what we do. We have 18 offices across the United States. I help run the development operations for the Northeast, which spans from northern New Jersey and New York all the way through New England. It's worthwhile to note that the people that you're looking at from Trammell Crow, and frankly the broader development team of consultants and engineers, are the people you're going to see throughout the span of this project. Not only are we the developer, but we're also the general contractor. We're the builder. Those people aren't here right now, but you're getting sort of a one-stop shop in terms of performance of the work. And I think that is generally a benefit to the town and certainly our neighbors. Again, some of our offices throughout the United States, the amount of construction starts that we've done in the past couple decades, really. These are some of our projects that are specific to our Northeast office. Between currently constructed and completed, I think we've done about over 2,000 units since we reopened the Boston office in 2016. So we have the knowledge of the development process. We have the knowledge of the construction process. We bring that to every project, and we really strive to become a partner, a collaborative partner with the town and with our neighbors in performing this work. I will now hand it over to our architect.
Good evening. I'm Steve Shetler. I'm the project architect for this project for Bergman Hendry. We're located in South Boston. I'd like to walk through some of the design aspects of the site plan. Frank elaborated on a lot of the physical pieces, but I want to go through some of the design intentions and some of the aspects that we feel are unique to this design proposal. And I'll walk through how what the design is, the architectural intentions of the design. The development organizes the Phase 1 buildings along the river. We're very focused on enhancing and appreciating that resource. We believe that the best way to sustain that newly constructed resource is to make it part of everyday life for the residents of this development. The buildings in Phase 1 are kept smaller, varying from 67 to 108 units. This gives us more views to the river and to the site, and ready access to the landscape resources, and reduces the scale of the overall project. All of the buildings are 4 stories in height, about 48 feet, with some raised parapets and canopies to emphasize entrances and certain design conditions on the buildings. Each building is designed uniquely. We're not repeating a single design here. And each of the buildings responds to their location in the site and those opportunities. So buildings 1A and 1B, which are on the south end of the site, they're introductory buildings and the first impression for visitors and potential residents to this. They're broken into 2 buildings, again, to provide a view through the site and provide more opportunities between buildings to have views of the landscape and the river. Building 2 is a courtyard building at 102 units, and again, it's oriented to provide and enhance the appreciation of the river, and it also working with buildings 1 and 5 to set the neighborhood edges and the roadways and the sidewalk system. Building 3 at 72 units terminates the main north-south roadway that bisects the site. And Building 4 across the river at 108 units, that building is angled, again, to respond to the topography and the site geometry to enhance the views up and down the river, but also to provide a landscape buffer between the parking and the rail line to the west. The buildings have numerous entrances and access points and are surrounded by a paved sidewalk system. The idea here is to promote pedestrian use by making it easy to, with multiple access, to gain access to your unit, but also to gain access to the landscape resources using the stairs and not relying on elevators for access to the buildings. The buildings also include indoor and outdoor amenity spaces. Primary amenity space is located in Building 1A, and it serves 4 of the buildings, 2 and 3. Building 4, with its remote location, has a smaller but its own amenity space, and Building 5 has its own amenity spaces as well. Those amenity spaces include lounge and co-work areas and fitness space for the residents. Here you can see the view from the newly completed boardwalk, and again, the buildings are broken into smaller buildings, again, giving views to and from the landscape. The buildings share a common design language, but are not all identical. So we'll use the use of color and individual entries to give each building an identity within the entire composition. Here's an example of Building 1A. This is the one that contains the amenity space. And you can see the emphasis, the design emphasis on entry and corners. We're proposing brick cladding around the base of the amenity space, which is upgrade in material. And here you can see Building 3. Again, this terminates the main north-south access drive. You can see a turnaround and drop-off area. One of the things that we're doing in terms of organizing the site is to have a turnaround at a turnabout at the south and then a turnaround at the north at Building 3, so that it's not awkward for people in cars to enter and exit the site, and you can use that turnaround for that purpose. The materials palette are primary. The buildings will be clad in fiber cement clapboard and panels, and then with some accenting of wood look fiber cement and brick areas to emphasize entrances or special conditions on the site. We're excited to be working with Trammell Crow team and with Peter, and look forward for the opportunity to work with Chief Viola and Commissioner Forsberg. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Nick Delacava, professional engineer with Allen & Major Associates. We are the site civil engineers for the project. And tonight I'll go over with you some of the civil aspects of this project. What we have here is the lotting and phasing plan. The project will be constructed in 2 separate phases. Phase 1 will include Lot 1 and Lot 3, and shown here in red and green with a total of 427 units. Phase 2 includes Lot 2 in blue, all the way on the eastern side of the site, with 325 units. This is our zoning and parking plan. The site has been divided into 3 zoning compliant lots, meeting all density and setback requirements. Lot 1 is approximately 9.6 acres and includes 241 units within buildings 1B, 2, and 3 at the center of the site. Zoning requires a 1.5 parking ratio or 362 total spaces. We've provided 346 spaces with a 1.4 ratio, with an additional 16 reserved in landscaped islands for the future construction if and when additional parking is required. These are shown on this plan as the small red rectangles scattered throughout the site. And again, during the initial phase of the construction, our intent is to have those areas as additional landscaping. Lot 2 is approximately 10.9 acres and includes 325 units within Building 5, requiring 488 total spaces. We plan on constructing 450 spaces, again with another parking ratio of 1.4, and an additional 38 reserved on the surface. Lot 3 is approximately 10.6 acres and includes 186 units within buildings 1A and 4 on the west side of the site. This lot requires 279 total spaces. We intend on building 259, another 1.4 ratio, with an additional 20 reserved. In total, there are 1,129 spaces required and 1,055 proposed, with 74 total reserved. I won't spend much time on this slide. Frank did a good job going through it, but it just shows a detailed breakdown for the zoning compliance of each lot in accordance with the MCMOD overlay requirements. This is our parking table. This table provides a breakdown of the different types of parking on each lot, including surface, garage, ADA, EV, and EVR. EV spaces will include charging pedestals that are installed during the initial construction of the project. EVR spaces, or electric vehicle ready, will be equipped with all the necessary electrical infrastructure to easily install the EV chargers in the future when the demand arises. Lot 1 will have 350 total surface spaces, 12 total garage spaces spread out between 4 separate enclosed garages, 10 ADA spaces, 24 EV, and then 69 EVR spaces. Lot 2 will have 206 spaces on the surface, 244 within the structured parking garage that's wrapped by Building 5, 7 ADA on the surface, 16 EV, and then 63 EVR. And lastly, Lot 3 will have 244 surface spaces, 15 spread out through 4 separate garages, 10 ADA, 18 EV, and 36 EVR. So our fire access and circulation drawing. The site driveways and bridge crossing will provide continuous access to both sides of the river. The bridge design was previously reviewed and approved under a separate project, but construction will occur during phase 1 of this development. Primary access to the eastern portion of the site will be provided from Plain Street and Mahar Highway. It is the applicant's intent to provide primary access to the western portion of the site across the MBTA right-of-way to Hancock Street, though this is still under review and being coordinated with the MBTA to get final approvals. The red hatch areas are 20-foot wide reinforced grass pavers. They're designed for emergency access behind each of the buildings. The red circles reflect 100-foot radiuses around 11 proposed fire hydrants located to provide ample coverage around each building. The final hydrant and emergency access locations will be coordinated with the fire department, who will have final approval and final direction on where these 2 items go throughout the site. This is our snow storage plan. The parking, hardscape, and emergency access areas requiring snow storage, snow removal, I should say, are shown in red. This area is approximately 353,000 square feet. The snow storage areas are shown in blue with an approximate area of 43,000 square feet. which can accommodate a snowfall depth of approximately 2.5 feet. This assumes a 4-foot snow pile height and a 5-to-1 compaction across each of these areas in blue. This is our stormwater management plan. Before I run through it, I think it's important to note that all of the existing runoff from the existing site, it does flow unmitigated and largely untreated directly into the river. And so as part of the proposed development, we will be treating all runoff from the site and provide a significant reduction in both the peak rate and volume discharging to the river by incorporating low-impact design. This includes the addition of approximately 2.4 acres of green space and incorporating decentralized infiltration systems. The decentralized infiltration mimics natural hydrology by promoting groundwater recharge near the source rather than a single large end-of-pipe system. This plan shows the full build condition of the stormwater management system, but the design has been provided to mitigate all storm events during both phases of construction. So when phase 1 is built and phase 2 hasn't been constructed yet, the stormwater management system will still function and provide the water quality and the peak rates and the volume attention. The blue lines show conveyance pipes, catch basins, and drain manhole structures. The red boxes represent underground infiltration systems. All surface runoff will be captured in deep sump hooded catch basins and passed through water quality units before being discharged to either the infiltration systems or the river. There are 5 underground infiltration systems shown on the east side with 44,000 cubic feet of storage. These systems are located throughout the eastern half of the site in feasible locations based on preliminary subsurface investigations. Infiltration on the westerly portion of the site will be difficult, if not infeasible, due to a large activity and use limitation, also known as an AUL, and relatively high groundwater elevations, which often prevent the use of underground infiltration. The redevelopment project meets all 10 performance standards under the Mass Stormwater Handbook, as well as all the local requirements. This includes peak rate attenuation, groundwater recharge, 80% minimum TSS removal, which stands for total suspended solids, and capturing and treating the 1-inch water quality volume. The local 50% phosphorus removal requirement for major projects near sensitive areas is also satisfied with this design. And lastly, this is our utility plan. Plan shows the sanitary sewer in blue, the water services in red, and the underground electric in purple. And I apologize if it's a little difficult to see at this scale, but your handouts have this same slide in there. The development will be served by municipal water, sewer, and the Braintree Electric Light Department, BELD. The proposed development will discharge the municipal sewer system in Plain Street by connecting to an existing 12-inch sewer service at the southwest corner of the site. This existing service will be video inspected to confirm its condition, and if it needs to be replaced, a new service line will be installed. The majority of the proposed sewer flows by gravity, or will flow by gravity to this location from a proposed manhole in front of Building 3. Building 4 will be routed to a small underground pump chamber on the westerly side of the site, just on the other side of the bridge. From there, it will be pumped over through a force main to that sewer manhole in Building 3, where everything will flow by gravity to the municipal system. 10-inch water line will be looped through the development with connections to the 12-inch main in Plain Street and an existing 10-inch service near Hancock Street. Separate fire and domestic services for each building will be fed from this looped line. There are existing overhead wires and utility poles running across the property from Plain Street to Mahar Highway, kind of hugging along those residential properties. These will be removed and all new underground conduits will be installed. The preliminary design shows connections to an existing utility pole near Hancock and Plain Street, as well as an electric manhole near Mahar Highway. We are still in the early stages of the design and are continuing to coordinate with BELD to further refine where those exact connections take place on either sides of the property. And lastly, based on Massachusetts Title V regulations, the project has an estimated sewer generation of 127,000 gallons per day. For water generation, a 10% increase is applied to account for the water loss like drinking water or watering houseplants. This equates to a water demand of approximately 140,000 gallons per day. The applicant has engaged with the town and their peer review consultant to perform a capacity analysis for both water and sewer to determine what, if any, impact the development will have on the existing infrastructure. And we're committed to working with that peer review consultant and the town to address any concerns that may arise as part of that capacity analysis. And so now I'll hand it over to Abby with Copley Wolf to go over some of the landscaping.
Hello, thank you. I'm Abby from Copley Wolf Landscape Architects. We have been working on the design for the landscape and open space for this project. While we're designing, we really were looking to focus our design goals around the river and the natural resources of the site because they are absolutely stunning and a really main feature of this area. And as a team, we have continued to collaborate together. For example, as Steve had mentioned, we collaborated on the building orientations to really accentuate the views of the river from the different buildings, as well as to integrate path systems throughout the landscape. Our second main goal was to maximize open space on site. As mentioned before, there currently will be 58% open space on site, and we're adding 2.4 acres of green space. And through continued interdisciplinary collaboration, we have been able to preserve as many existing mature trees as possible, and especially within the river buffer area. We are also planning on planting hundreds of new trees and to extend the forest canopy into the site. This will create a green park-like feeling in the site while also reducing the heat island effect of the parking lots. Also, there will be lighting in all of our parking lots, and within the 7 different residential courtyards, there'll be pedestrian lights as well as pedestrian lights on the walking paths, which have been designed to be dark sky compliant and without spill off of the site. This is a sample of our tree palette. We are currently looking at a mixture of canopy trees, ornamentals, and evergreens that are native that will provide year-round interest from flowers to shade, fall colors, and winter evergreens. We're also introducing a primarily native planting palette focusing on riparian species and plants that are beneficial to pollinators. This slide shows a sample of the type of plants we intend to use. We will also include a low-mow grass meadow as a transition between the manicured lawns and the natural river areas. This slide is highlighting the public amenities of the site. We had mentioned before the existing public boardwalk, which is the line in blue, starting on the south at Plain Street, heading north to Point B, which is where the fish ladder and view platform currently are. And so we're planning on creating and connecting to it with a path system, which are the red lines throughout the site. Those will connect to the boardwalk as well as expand access across the bridge to the east side of the site and Mahar Highway. There also will be at Point E a river overlook from the high side of the river to again accentuate those views of the river. And then page south at the bottom of the site on Plain Street, points F and G will be our preferred locations for a public food truck courtyard with seating and adjacent public parking opportunities. We're continuing to coordinate with MassDOT to finalize the exact location of that amenity. And to reiterate, again, we have the 2.4 acres of green space we're adding back to the site, public food court, food truck court, and seating, connection to the Braintree River Walk, a new public walking path throughout the site, new west-facing overlook, and meadow transitions across the site. And next will be Andrew covering wetlands.
Thank you for having me tonight. For the record, my name is Andrew Tebow. I'm a wetland scientist as part of the team. Our company is Goddard Consulting. The team before me has done an excellent job walking through the existing conditions of the site, so my intent will just be to provide this from a wetlands perspective. So the figure you see before you now is the result of an updated wetland delineation that was conducted by our team earlier this year. With the river restoration project done, it was important to get an updated wetland delineation done for the site so that all the applications before you now are accurately showing our current conditions and our buffer zones. So that was completed by our office in January and February of this year. At a high level, we have what's well known as the Manatequet River, surrounded by bordering vegetated wetlands on the property. Most important for the conversation tonight, the pink solid line that you see is the mean annual high water line where the river was delineated. It's the current path of the river on the property, and the surrounding blue solid line is the jurisdictional wetland system that surrounds the river. So outermost on this graphic, you see a dotted purple line. That is the 200-foot riverfront area, so that's the extent of wetlands jurisdiction on this property. And then the light blue line that you see is the 100-foot buffer zone from the wetlands themselves. And so what this project has done now is we've also filed subsequently a notice of intent with the town's Conservation Commission and Mass DEP. This has been filed as a riverfront redevelopment project. Now under these projects, there's a few things that we have to sort of come up with in our design and certain criteria that we have to meet. So at a minimum, we have to reuse the existing surfaces on the site. We have to end in a net benefit to the resource area, and that's typically through a reduction of impervious surfaces and moving them further away from the riverfront area. So we did include a couple photos on this slide of some of the existing conditions on the property. On this graphic, we show the existing limit of impervious surfaces as a solid orange line. That's the existing limits of the parking and the buildings that were outlined by my team earlier. And then the actual orange dotted line that you see are just degraded areas, disturbed areas, areas that we need to restore as part of our riverfront restoration project. And these photos are examples of that. And so what we have here in our second figure is an overlay of the site plan that you guys had just seen over that same wetland delineation graphic with the same buffer zones. And we've been able to accomplish 5 things here as far as the riverfront restoration and the improvements to the property. So first is that we've been able to move structures further from the river than they are presently. The notice of intent application that the Conservation Commission will review with us, and I'm sure the Planning Board will see, is that at present there's existing structures about 25 feet from the river. We're able to double that and move them about 58 feet away. So we're able to make some significant improvements there. We've also been able to move the impervious surfaces, all the parking, further away from the river as well. It was stated earlier that there's also a significant net reduction in impervious surface cover. Total on the property, it was 2.4 acres, as was previously outlined. The important thing from a wetlands perspective is that 87% of that, so about 2.1 acres, is located within this 200-foot jurisdictional riverfront area. So it's been a significant reduction as far as that impervious surface cover within the 200-foot riverfront area, and it met all the criteria under the state's redevelopment under the Wetlands Protection Act. Furthermore, as far as stormwater management goes, we have additionally, as outlined by our engineers, so I won't go into detail there, made significant efforts to now manage stormwater on site. The stormwater management program that has been implemented will result in a significant benefit to the water quality that enters the river itself. So the notice of intent has been filed with the Conservation Commission. We will be awaiting comments from Mass DEP and reviewing that with them. So from a wetlands perspective, that review will be ongoing, and we look forward to carrying that through with both the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission.
Good evening, Chair and Board members. For the record, Robert Michaud with MDM Transportation Consultants. I'd like to walk through the highlights of a traffic impact assessment that our firm has conducted for the property. This has been subject to peer review. We're in receipt recently of that review and are in process of incorporating adjustments and responses to that review. For context, the study looked at a series of locations that are expected to experience material change in traffic volume, something that can be measured and that represents essentially about a 5% change or so over ambient conditions. The red dots shown in this indicate which of those locations, area intersections, were included in the study, beginning at Plain Street on the Washington Street, Hancock Street side, where it's signalized, to the John Mahar Highway side, which is also signalized, the two driveways that currently serve the property, and then north of that via John Mahar Highway at Pearl Street and eventually at Union Street to the north. These were vetted early in the planning process for the project through the planning department, some early consultation with the city. We know one of the very important aspects of conducting a study like this is to understand the safety characteristics of principally impacted locations. We've taken time to look at a 5-year time horizon of crash experience at each one of these locations, and we're pleased to report that not a single one of these locations exceeded an average crash rate as documented by Mass DOT. So while there may be need to enhance the operational characteristics of certain locations, which I'll go into in a moment, from a safety perspective, there are no particular locations that are requiring a countermeasure under these conditions. The site, as the board is aware, is well positioned relative to alternative travel modes and services. The Braintree MBTA station is located within a mile of this site and is well connected to the site via a series of sidewalk connections, which on this map are shown in green dashed outline. The site is also immediately proximate to an MBTA bus route that serves the Braintree MBTA station directly, and eventually Quincy Center. That's bus route 230. Bus stop is actually located at the Hancock driveway that currently serves the property, and you'll see along the Hancock Street corridor a series of other alternative MBTA stops and locations. You'll also see that the site is walkable to a series of retail opportunities along, for instance, Pearl Street, which is located within about a half a mile of this particular site. A unique characteristic of this site, because of those amenities, is that there's a substantial reliance, if you will, on alternative modes of transportation for commuting purposes. We took the time to look at census tract information for this particular neighborhood to understand its trip characteristics, and it's indicating that a substantial number of folks who live in this particular neighborhood area actually work from home or telecommute or to a substantial degree use public transportation for their commute purposes. About 9% of residents in this particular tract actually use public transportation on a regular basis, 6% carpool, 2% walk, and again 17% or so will work from home on some regular basis. That indicates that about 2/3 of the trips that are made here are in a single occupant's vehicle, and nearly 1/3 are in alternative modes. While that's a unique characteristic to this particular neighborhood, the assessment and the impact that we're identifying in this traffic study did not take any credit for these types of alternative modes. This is provided for context. We've taken a high and very conservative approach to estimating impact that does not take credit for these particular modes. We did take the time to observe and document the existing traffic activity for the property, which, as the board understands, currently is occupied by the Registry of Motor Vehicles, as well as a gym facility. In January of this year, we quantified those volumes in the morning peak hours to be about 141 total vehicle trips coming and going from the site, and substantially more in the evening peak hours at just under 300 vehicle trips per hour. So this is a very active commercial site. Over the course of an entire day, there are more than 3,000 vehicles that enter and exit this particular property. As we look at the full build potential of the project at 752 units, we've applied industry standard trip rates that are documented and well established by the Institute of Transportation Engineers, which indicate a total daily trip activity of about 3,400 trips, or almost identical level of activity to what currently exists on the site. And during peak hours in the morning and evening hours, about 300 vehicle trips during those hours, which is nearly equivalent to what currently happens at the site during the weekday evening peak hours, and is about 178 additional trips above what currently occurs during the weekday morning peak hours during the commuter periods. That's broken down into two separate phases, as the team has previously described. The first phase of development, which will be the first 4 buildings, 427 units on the property, will actually generate substantially less traffic than the eventual full build-out. So in effect, we'll be reducing the level of trip activity during peak hours for the site in the evening and on a daily basis, with only a marginal increase in trip activity during the morning peak hours, and then eventually to the full build, which I've just described. The net effect of this development, if one were to take a snapshot in time during an hour or the peak hours in the morning and evening, would be reflected in this schematic drawing. This happens to be for a commuter period in the morning. Schematically, this shows John Mahar on the right side of the page, Plain Street on the bottom, and Hancock Street on the left. In this particular peak period in the morning, we expect, again, the differential in trips from what currently happens today at about 178 trips. Most of those, virtually almost all of those increases are associated with outbound traffic from the site. We expect that the vast majority of that will be oriented to John Mahar Highway, eventually to Route 3, but there will be some level of increase to Hancock Street. We expect, relative to today's condition, about 50 to 52 vehicle trips total along that corridor, about 1 vehicle a minute. So it's not a large number, but it is a quantifiable number. In the evening, the net differences are very small. There are less than 10 vehicle trip differences for virtually almost every intersection that we've studied. And operationally, we've conducted an assessment of capacity and the ability for these study locations to accommodate these types of trip increases. This is a very graphical summary of detailed assessment that's presented in the traffic report. It indicates, in summary, that all of the locations that were studied, beginning with a northerly intersection at Union Street and then eventually to the Plain Street intersections, acceptable operating conditions, levels of service, acceptable levels of delay today and in the future, with and without the project. The one location that sustains a more substantial impact independent of this project is the intersection of Plain Street and Hancock Street. We expect that the additional traffic created by other recently approved projects, there are 7 of them, in fact, that were considered in the study, will increase volumes at that particular location where the rail crossing exists to a level of service E condition. That will not change as a result of the project, but there is an opportunity to enhance and mitigate that anticipated delay increase by retiming and optimizing how that signal works. So in the end analysis, once those types of actions are applied, that location will also operate well below capacity at level of service C or better, well within an acceptable standard. The site itself will provide enhanced access relative to today's condition. On page bottom, the Plain Street driveway, which is currently located relatively close to where the Hancock Street signal is, will be relocated further to the east to the furthest point possible along the site frontage there, affording the opportunity for any queuing that occurs from the signal to not unduly influence the operation of that driveway. The John Mahar Highway location will also be improved and enhanced. It will be shifted very slightly north of its current location with improved geometry. And as mentioned earlier, the Hancock Street driveway, which currently exists, is intended to serve at a minimum as an access point for fire and emergency access, but ideally as a full access whose principal function would really be to serve Building 4. It's roughly just over a 100-unit building that is more proximate to that particular location. The disposition and design of that particular driveway is subject to ongoing conversations with MBTA, but we know that at a minimum that will serve as an emergency access, and ideally and preferentially would also serve the needs of that particular building at building number 4. Parking was discussed, and the notion that some portion of the parking will be banked. The parking ratio for this will be provided at 1.5 spaces per unit. This is a detailed assessment of comparing industry standards to that ratio. And what those industry standards show is that the 85th or maximum demand characteristics for a project like this shows a peak projected demand of about 1,100 total parked vehicles. That's a nationally recognized standard, and it's a standard, quite frankly, that's regularly applied and used in the Commonwealth for projects just like this. So what's being proposed for parking is appropriate and in line with those industry standards and national standards. But we also took a deeper dive to understand on a per bedroom basis what those demands might look like, and that tends to be a more accurate variable to consider as projects that have a lower number of high bedroom facilities, in other words, more 1 to 2 bedroom units, would tend to generate lower parking demands. And the industry standards bear that out. Application of those rates on a per bedroom basis would indicate that there's a surplus of somewhere around 100 vehicles or spaces on the site. So the proponents' desire to bank spaces at 74 spaces is absolutely in line with that national standard and characteristic, and it still affords the opportunity to provide those spaces to the extent that the demand actually bears out, subject to monitoring. Finally, on mitigation, this project, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be evaluating and providing enhanced operations at Washington Street, Hancock Street, and Plain Street Signal. That's where the rail crossing currently exists. That signal absolutely can be made to work more efficiently than it currently does to bring it up to an acceptable operating standard. We've discussed the notion of reserved parking to enhance the green space and the natural environment of the site. The site, as would any other project in Braintree, be subject to a post-occupancy monitoring program to ensure that its actual performance is in line with what the studies are predicting, and to make any corrections or mitigative actions as necessary based on the outcome of that monitoring. And finally, there'll be a transportation demand management program for this site that introduces a substantial ability for pedestrians to move about without getting in a car. There'll be connections internal to the site and to the sidewalk systems along Plain and Hancock Streets, allowing accessibility to those retail opportunities I mentioned earlier, to the MBTA stops, to the retail opportunities. Bicycle facilities on site, which Nick had mentioned earlier, EV parking, and finally, separate pricing for parking, which is referred to as unbundled parking. So we look forward to continuing the conversation with the board and to responding to peer review comments on the project. Thank you. We'll turn it back to Mark.
Thank you.
So as has been mentioned a couple times now, we're creating a considerably more open space than is required, which is a benefit to our residents, but also the broader community. The preservation of trees and planting of new trees and native landscaping are benefits that were mentioned by our landscaping architect. We are endeavoring to create pedestrian connections to commercial centers, as was noted by Bob. Those include crossing over from Hancock, subject to our coordination with the MBTA, to get our residents into South Braintree Square and supporting those businesses on Hancock, but also up the Mahar and supporting the businesses that are due north of the site. As noted, we will be building a river overlook on the east side of the river. So it was mentioned, but just to reiterate, we will be building a walk on the eastern side of the river that will be open to the public, that will join the existing boardwalk via the bridge that will be built. That walk, which was shown on one of the landscape slides, will wrap around the northern part of the site and then follow our lot line down to the Mahar intersection. Lastly, as was mentioned, we are going to include a food truck court that was noted in the corner towards the river and Plain Street. And as Bob mentioned again, street signal optimization, which should improve the flow of traffic for everybody. As was noted by council, we're not max building here. We're at about 80% of what the max build is. Of the development that we're creating, 10% of those housing units, or 76, will be affordable. And lastly, we noted that we will be creating daytime public parking spaces near that food truck area to allow for Braintree and other residents to access the boardwalk and be able to park during daytime hours. The fiscal impact report, as was noted earlier, was submitted earlier today, but yesterday. These are some of the summaries from that. You'll note that the gross annual taxes is in the over $3 million range. Building fees for this project, one-time building fees will be over $3 million, and water and I&I fees will be just under $1 million, as we understand these costs right now. So there's significant financial benefit. The fiscal impact report does delve into the costs that are created by the site, so it is reasonable that you should understand that obviously a project of this nature will create some impact on fire, EMT, and police services. The fiscal impact report does address those, and it nonetheless notes that there'll be a net benefit to the town of Braintree of between about $1.2 million to $1.9 million in tax revenue, net revenue, inclusive of those costs, and that also includes projected school children impact costs. With that, I will close, unless there's something you'd like to add, Frank? No? And then we'll open this for questions or if there's a public comment period.
All right.
Thank you.
You very much. All right. I think, Director, do you have anything you want to add right now, or I was going to turn it over to public comment and questions?
I have nothing to add at this point.
Okay. All right. So that was a lot of information to take in, and for everybody out there, this is not the only meeting on this project, for sure. But if you have comments or questions to raise this evening, just please come up to the microphone. Please state your name and address, and keep your comments on point. I know there's bound to be some things that overlap, but try not to be repetitive so that people have an opportunity to talk and we have an opportunity to move on to other speakers. And just lastly, as I noted before, be respectful and it's a little bit awkward at these meetings, but make sure to direct your comments to the board and not to the development team, and they'll have an opportunity to respond either later tonight or at later meetings. So with that, please go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Pat Mulcairn. I live at 12 Ellery Street in the Dyer Hill neighborhood across the intersection from the development. I'm also a business agent for Plumbers Local Union 12 and president of the Quincy South Shore Building Trades Unions. I appreciate the representative from Trammell Crow assuring Braintree to feel comfortable with them because they're the biggest. I, for one, am not comfortable. Trammell Crow and its related entities have a history of prioritizing large-scale, profit-driven development without always meeting critical community standards. Past issues including accessibility violations, poor workmanship, mold health issues incurred, and disputes over fair labor show that without binding agreements, residents risk projects that overlook safety, inclusivity, and good jobs. In New England, there's no guarantee that the construction would be built union with good wages and benefits, meaning local workers may be underpaid and benefits diminished. Without commitments to prevailing wages and accessibility compliance, environmental safeguards, and community input, Developments can erode trust, displace residents, and weaken Braintree's economy. It would have been nice to see a developer proposing 700 units involve some commercial restaurant space for our community to also enjoy along the new river that's been done. Our community deserves investment that uplifts everyone, not just corporate bottom lines. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Flowers, 48 Fallon Circle. And I think we all knew this was going to be bad, but we didn't know how bad until now. It is horrific. 140,000 gallons of water a day? Where are we going to come up with that? I don't know. I mean, we barely have enough for what we have now. The architecture, there must be something you can do about the architecture, because those plans that they showed were terrible. I mean, maybe that's fine in Dallas or Oklahoma City, but not Braintree. That's not Braintree. I mean, there must be something that you guys can work with them. And I realize they can do it by right, but they can't build ugly buildings here. And we all know the traffic, so I won't belabor that. It's bad, really bad now, right there on Plain Street and Hancock Street, with the trains going all the time, and this is going to make it worse. I don't understand mitigation, how that's going to help. And I just hope that when they market these apartments, that they tell the people the train horns at 11, 12 o'clock at night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, and clerk. My name is Kelly Moore, 46 Hollis Ave, Braintree. I rise in opposition to this project. No matter how much lipstick is applied, there is no way to prove this project will be a benefit to the town of Braintree. First, let's look at the vehicle trips. 750 units, 752 units times 7 vehicle trips a day, that's ITE, generate 5,264 additional vehicle trips per day to that area and throughout Braintree from this single development. It is also known that this location will generate more water and sewerage volume that the existing municipal infrastructure can handle. What is missing in this project is the opportunity to include a good mix of commercial, retail, and residential uses. Apparently, Braintree cannot affect the outcome of this project given this is proposed under the Beacon Hill mandate. However, there is one organization who can make changes, Trammell Crow. They can do the right thing for the town and significantly reduce the number of proposed units. They won't see much of a revenue reduction given that, by their own words, they are the largest residential developer in the country. I recommend the planning board do everything in its power to ask the developer to reduce the scope of this project to something more palatable to the town of Braintree. Thank you.
Hi, Hi, Rob Kadire, 306 Washington Street. When I saw this proposed 750 units, that is far too big. As I said, they're going for 80% of the maximum allowable units per acre towards the higher end. And as stated, And as I stated, it would be highly negatively impactful to the town's fiscal outlook. And as I've stated at previous meetings, when we are concerned with digging out of a budget deficit, don't be bringing in too many more mouths to feed, especially since there's no plan for expanding the commercial business in this area. In-town commercial businesses would broaden the tax base, not require additional town expenses on emergency services, schools, or utilities and infrastructure. We're already dealing with the 100-unit Allen Street mess in East Braintree, the St. Thomas More site. We're staring down the 325 Zom disaster down at the mall. And Dyer Hill is fighting hard against an obscene 60-unit proposal at Dalton Water. Braintree doesn't need 700 more apartments to go along with that. This proposal would cost the town annually far more than it would bring in, including at minimum, in using the developer's own words from the June meeting, 125 students expected to be enrolled. Using Braintree's roughly $20,000 per student enrollment numbers, you're looking at additional school expenses at an additional $4 million, much more than the $3 million annually that he said that this would bring in. Those one-time costs, those are one-time costs. That'll cover it for about 1 year. After that, just the schools alone and nothing else, it's already running a $1 million deficit. Now, the people here, and all of you as well, just had your property taxes raised in the override. And now there's another fiscal drain here before the board. These are the people whose interests the board in the town is supposed to represent, not a corporate developer. As I said, those one-time fees will cover enrollment for about 1 year. And in the end, once again, it'll come back to everybody sitting behind me and to you as well to pony up the money through another tax hike. Meanwhile, the largest developer in the nation is going to be making bank. The rich get richer, and we all get screwed on this deal. So to those on the board, enforce your ability through the law to limit the units per acre. It is acceptable under the Massachusetts, the MBTA Communities Act, to limit it to 15 units per acre, which would translate this to roughly 450 units instead of this 750 unit monstrosity. And to those in the town government, raise the taxes that are levied on large residential developers to offset the increased need for spending. Shift the burden to the big corporate developers. They can afford it. Many residents can't. And a lot risk being priced out of their homes, particularly families with children and seniors on fixed income. So in summary, this is far too big, and this is far too burdensome on the town and the residents. These are the people whose interests should be paramount, not the multi-billion-dollar company. Do the right thing by them. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Liz Page, 137 Stores Ave, co-president of the North Braintree Civic Association. So just some observations from tonight and some comments. I did not see or hear much discussion about the buffer zone to the neighborhood. I know there is quite a bit of the town center type development there, but Plain Street still should be buffered because there are residential homes up there. I also have a real problem with the way the whole river was discussed tonight. The town owns the river. This developer acted like it's their property. That's a town project, and they are benefiting from it in a huge fashion. And I have some question about how much it's going to appear to be their Riverwalk, because for all intents and purposes, they're building all around it and encompassing it, and it will lose its look of accessibility to the town and to our residents. For example, Building 4 is on the far side of the river. How do the people that live in Building 4 get there? They drive across our Riverwalk? Through the chair?
Yes, there is a bridge proposed there. And just to clarify, the Riverwalk was a private town project where the town was a big part of it. It is correct that it is a private ownership of the river, and there's an easement that allows the town and the residents to use the river. Just to correct that, I agree with you with the community participation with the river and all of that, but just correcting that point.
So who owns the actual river where the Riverwalk is?
The Messina Hollingsworth Pond, the developer group.
So they own this Riverwalk?
That's correct, and there's an easement for the town and the community.
Okay, okay. So, and the town paid for all these improvements with state funding and
I don't know the
funds?
details to it. I know the town does have financial liability for maintenance and other aspects of it, but I can't speak to the details
Okay,
of the financial
so that
part.
also brings me to, who maintains cleaning this river? I mean, they're talking about putting a food seating area adjacent to the Riverwalk. To me, that is counterproductive to what this is supposed to be, a natural environment, and you're going to have a food truck parked there. Who will be picking up the litter that results in this area? Through the chair.
It's a good question. I think the details of how that works together. I know there's an easement that lays out some of it. I'm not sure with the details of this exactly what the scope of that would be.
And they also did discuss that they were going to make parking accessible for residents to go to the Riverwalk. It really feels to me like we're handing the town accessibility to the Riverwalk to this developer. It really looks like it's not ours anymore, just from a resident's perspective. And they talked about building another walk to join into our current walk. If we planned that and we developed it, I don't think they should be able to alter it. And I think that these are issues that should be discussed. The other thing, I do think it's a huge missed opportunity. This is such a beautiful area. We could have had some type of like a place with mixed use and restaurants and boutiques. They could have done so much more than just cramming in as many apartments as they possibly could. I understand they have the right to do that, but that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. And in addition to that, I feel like the comments about the traffic, we're being told a fairy tale. Everybody that lives in Braintree knows you can't get from Braintree Highlands to the other end of town without sitting in traffic for miles and miles. What this is going to do is virtually divide the town in half, and you will not be able to get from one side of town to the other. And I think that there's a lot of work that still needs to be done because I don't agree with their assessment of the traffic. So I hope that you will all consider these factors. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Justine Huang, 25 Lakeside Drive. Thank you for presenting such beautiful looks. But as a former master plan community, I always ask the same question for any new development. What's there for Braintree residents? Other than traffic, public services, increased need for our public resource, one-time fee that the town will get, as Rob already indicated, all the financial impact, which only lasts for us for a year perspective. So if I'm looking at the hard work of the Braintree board, the Councilor Meredith had worked so hard to put the boardwalk project together to allow residents around the center of town enjoy a piece of quiet walking down the boardwalk. Now that you introduce a bridge cutting over the boardwalk, which means you're putting them back to the busy feeling of downtown Braintree again. The purpose of the beautification of our town's objective has destroyed by introduce of the bridge over the property over the rivers. The second one I want to point out is community public access. There is a lot of greenway, but a lot of tree was provided to cover the privacy of the property. I have not seen any public indication where there will be a public park where our community has the right to host events. Our community can have a joint of summer afternoon playgrounds. We do not see that, and I've seen a lot of development by working in the city. I work directly in the Brighton Landing. Even with the new development right next to my building, there's a public park there. There's an access, there's a concert, there's an evening concert that public can access to. I hope that there is such thing that the public has a choice to share this beautiful boardwalk, and they would donate piece of the Greenland to the public, just like the French Commons that the French family had donated years ago, ages ago. The third one is food trucks. Why we need food trucks? If you're talking about most of the residents are on foot, why are we not promoting local business, such as a cafe, a daycare center for the residents, or a restaurants? Because the winter time, there is no such thing as food truck that the resident want to walk there. The resident would rather enjoy this beautiful property with coffee shops and picking up their kids and dropping off before they go to work. So I'm urgently asking this property to incorporate mix of commercial space if possible. And the third one, the last one that I want to talk about is the safety of the petitions. Now you increase 725 units of residents. I don't know how many residents you expect to live there. And with the ring road, with the track that going across just right outside of this property, what are the safety precautions built in for the crosswalk? We saw Randolph Ring Road, people got killed there. And we saw down the street that Weymouth Landing, people across the street got run by cars. So this is my major concern that is not being addressed is what are the safety measurements in the petition caused to the ring roads. That's I have, and I hope those need to be addressed before any decision be made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Short. I don't know how to do this. There we go. I'm Raina Rubin. I live at Jonathan's Landing, which is a stone's throw from this project. So I have a little different take. So since we moved here, I've been looking at this eyesore for years. I'm actually really happy it's being developed. And I too had at one time hoped for mixed use. That was before it was rezoned, but it is very big density. And we do have need for housing in Braintree, and this is all one type of housing. It would be really nice if some phase or some part could also be condominiums. We really need a variety, and it's a real lost opportunity to not have anything except apartments. I also was a little concerned about impacts and whether or not we're getting enough benefits, for safety. And one thing, when you did the traffic report, like everybody else, you zoomed right past the entrance to Jonathan's Landing and Jake and Joe's. It's a very dangerous crossing there. We desperately need a real cross light. If there's any way that that could be worked into a benefit, a mitigation. And I know that we'll be getting money, but sometimes it's also helpful for a project with a big impact to make other contributions like safety equipment, police, fire equipment, vehicles, and that sort of thing that help offset. And I would hope we could work some of that into the program altogether. It would be really, really nice if the density could be reduced a little bit more, and that you could have more than just a viewing platform, but as others have said, a real park that we could use, a benefit. I think this is a good start, but I also kind of feel it's a lost opportunity to make a real success. I mean, I know you can do a lot of this as of right, but I would really like to see a better project that, people will point to and say that could be a real successful project, a real good example of what can be done under the T Communities Act. I wrote a letter, so I won't say any more. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Sisk. I live at 9 Canavan Drive in Braintree. Kind of two hats tonight. I am a lifelong resident of this town. Other than the time that I spent away at school, I have laid my head on a pillow in Braintree for 47 years. And I'm also fortunate enough to be a member of the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife Board, statewide board member representing the interests of natural heritage and endangered species. And I can tell you, I'm coming here as a private citizen, though, not representing the board or the agency. So I want to talk to you a little bit. I'm also somebody that has been skeptical of development in this town, or hesitant. And so it may be of a surprise to many in the crowd tonight, many of the board members here, that I am fully in support of this project for several reasons that I'd like to outline tonight. Number one, a previous speaker spoke about this being an eyesore. Having been here for 47 years, having broken into that building as a young man and done what kids do in that building, I can tell you that I didn't help in making it any less of an eyesore. In fact, it's a lot better today. I hope the statute of limitations has run out on that. But at any rate, this is the gateway to our community. Okay, you get off of whatever the new exit number is now, 17. It's always going to be 17 to me. We've got the transfer station, you've got the MBTA, they've started to take some buildings down. You get up the road a little bit, you've got beautiful Jonathan's Landing, nice buildings, and then you look to the right, and if you pull in there, or if you're coming up the other street, you've got this eyesore of a building. It's a representation of a bygone era in this town, an era that was helpful to build this town and make the community that it is, but we are no longer an industrial place. And there is a need for housing. Whether we want to admit it or not, whether we want to turn around and say, not in our backyard, not everyone wants a single-family home. Not everyone can afford a single-family home. And with the economics as they are today and the interest rates, who are we to say that you should just have to have a single-family home to live in Braintree? That should be the ideal. So this offers people an opportunity. The economic development is important to me. Having this kind of property and that amount of people in proximity to South Braintree Square will invigorate that part of town, in my opinion, in a way that we haven't seen. We have to keep pace with our neighbors, Weymouth and Quincy. They are our sister communities. We have a lot more going for them, in my opinion, in many ways. We have a more direct connection to the expressway than Quincy does and Weymouth does. We have a lot more opportunity. Now, I think we can do that opportunity responsibly. I don't think this is irresponsible. I want to spend a little bit of time tonight talking about the river. That was mentioned before. So what was said is accurate, that the developer owns under the river. They own the riverbed. And there is an easement that the town has. I've worked on this project, and there are many in this town who have wanted to see river herring. As lame as many of you may think this is a lifelong dream to see river herring past that dam. And it has been 200 years since a herring has passed that dam behind Shaw's, okay? And that's a significant and wonderful thing for this community. And it can be an engine for economic development, in my opinion. Look what happens in Weymouth and in Pembroke and the other towns that have successful herring runs. People can view them. This will happen here. And I'm happy to hear that the developer is going to build an adjoining walk on the other side. And a bridge. I think the bridge is great as well. I've spoken a little bit about that, but I want to kind of finish up with a couple of things here as far as the river is concerned. I invite you, board members, and anyone in the community, the Commonwealth, in conjunction with the town of Braintree, spent decades planning the fish ladder and the river walk that is there. Messina gracefully gave us the easement, which will be continued here. That project just finished, and there's already vandalism down there tonight. Okay? And that's because there are not eyes on it. If you go to Weymouth Landing, or you go to, not Weymouth Landing, excuse me. Well, Weymouth Landing, there's a smelt run there, and that's where our herring come in. Okay? If you go to where that Weymouth herring run, or the Pembroke herring run, they're in public areas. They're in places where people can see them. That will stop and help with poaching. That, believe it or not, does go on. People poach these fish. So having this development here and having eyes on this project, having eyes on the river is extremely important to me, and I think it's a wonderful thing. And I'll close with this, just in a little bit to talk about what the town plans and what the state does. The Division of Marine Fisheries, which is the government agency, there were 4 agencies, actually way more than 4, but they're kind of the main one behind the herring coming up the river. They have recommended a stream maintenance plan. That stream maintenance plan has called for the formation of a herring commission and a herring wardens. Just talking about the river for a minute, if I could, system-wide. So there will be people that are charged with the care, not the custody, but the care of this river from an environmental standpoint. I know the mayor is keen on doing that, and so is the local elected representation in that district. So I will tell you that as far as it being an impact for me, for somebody who loves the river and cares about it deeply, I want more eyes on it than not, especially in that particular area. I'll just close with this. Braintree is a town that I love, and I think we all love it. And we have to look at how we can stay at pace with our neighbors. Not exceed them, but I don't want to fall behind. And I think that we have done a certain job of putting certain things aside for a long time. And I know this is a lot. 700-something units, it sounds daunting. I know, and like I said, I've been somebody that's been hesitant from development for a long time. But I think these folks are on the right track, and I hope that you work with them, the other townsfolk here. They have some concerns, but I hope to see the project move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Robert Kearns. I'm also here in support of the project. I think that, people don't want to admit it, but we are in a housing crisis. We do need more housing units. And like previous speakers have said, not everybody can afford a single-family home. And I think having access to South Braintree Square via over the railroad tracks there, right up by Foley's Ice Cream, you're going to have a lot of people walking to the restaurants in South Braintree Square, walking to the coffee shops and small businesses already in South Braintree Square, the bars, the businesses there. So I think it's going to really help the current businesses in the square. I know there's a lot of people upset about this, but I really do. If people haven't been back there, it's a dump, honestly. Like the current property. There's a lot of trash. We've had trash cleanups that I've been involved in for many years, and I think having more residents with the neighborhood, with the river in their backyard, it's going to help get more support for cleaning up the river and enhancing it. I had a couple of minor suggestions on the connectivity issues. One is, I don't know if the plans have been altered, but it'd be great to have some sort of stairs from the current path to the bridge. In previous plans, I haven't seen any of that. So to go from the lower grade up to the top of the bridge. And I think the bridge, if it's built beautiful, it could be a really nice, attraction to look at the river and also look from the path up at the bridge if it's constructed in a nice way. Also, it'd be great to have a connection pedestrian-wise to the other side of the railroad tracks. I know working with the MBTA is a challenge, but there is a trail on the other side by Jake and Joe's and the Chateau on that side of the tracks. And my guess is people will probably try to trespass for a quicker route to the T and to the shopping plaza over there. So I think if possible, getting some sort of connection, either boardwalk under the railroad bridge or some sort of connection over the tracks with a grade crossing for pedestrians would really enhance pedestrian access to the retail space by Shaw's and to the T, rather than having to go all the way down and over the tracks there. But honestly, I think that having the trail along the tracks is a good thing as well. The other thing I had was access for maintenance of the fish ladder. I think having some sort of access for the town and for the volunteers to maintain the fish ladder would be good from the parking lot at Building 4. It doesn't have to be a permanent thing, but maybe a gravel path or something for trucks. And then keeping the trash dumpsters away from the river, I think, was a great aspect, and keeping them more by the railroad tracks, I think, was a good thing. On stormwater, there is one stormwater pipe that comes out by the fish ladder, and if the town names it MRQ009. If that one could be removed, it'd be great. It's in a really beautiful spot by the rocks, but it's kind of ugly. I don't know with the infiltration chambers if they could remove that outfall or not. And then with respect to the stormwater, the current plans appear to treat the runoff from the parking lots but not the building roofs. And I think including rain gardens or additional infiltration chambers to capture roof runoff from the first inch of rainfall would be a great benefit to cleaning the water. There is some aspects of pollution that comes from the roofs. Additionally, with the stormwater, there could be potential opportunities if the town and the developer is interested, and I don't know if this is feasible, but throwing the idea out there to take some of the catchment from Plain Street and infiltrate it on site. I don't know if that could be amenable and help the town with their MS4 requirements for reducing stormwater pollution on town property. So I think when you have a redevelopment like this, you could have an opportunity to do something like that. And then last stormwater thing, and I don't know if this is feasible with the AUL, but the gold standard really is to retain the 100-year storm with stormwater on site. I don't know if that's feasible with the AUL, but I think that's something I know Watertown does, but that could help with stormwater impacts. But those are all my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Paul Curto, and of course I live in the area. I live over by Madalena Park, and I'm not against development. I think this is a great project. I think 750 units is a little too much, but I'm more concerned about when it's the ongoing building. When they put in John Ma, after they put that in, I had to put in 2 sump pumps. Who paid for that? Me. Today, I was late coming here because I had an exterminator there because now I have rats. Who's paying for that? Me. I didn't create these problems. All the building that's going on created these problems. So I think maybe they should put some kind of a security fund up for cracked windows, maybe cracked foundations, rodent problems, when this is all ongoing. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Meredith Baraka. I'm the District 5 Town Councilor representing this area. Chairwoman Croa, members of the board, thank you for your time this evening. These remarks summarize a longer set of recommendations that I sent via email on Friday. First, I would like to acknowledge that Trammell Crow over the several months has been responsive and accessible and forthright. I greatly appreciate that, and I do hope these recommendations will be taken seriously by the proponent, as I have no doubt they will be by the board, as they always are. The need for new homes and economic development in Braintree is pressing. This proposal is more than that, though. It is a revitalization, a redevelopment, and most of all, an opportunity. The MBTA Communities Act zoning makes it easier to build much-needed new homes and create more walkable and sustainable neighborhoods. By right zoning, however, is not a blank check. It is a social compact that presupposes the zoning's goals will be met in both letter and spirit. This new neighborhood is less than half a mile from South Braintree Square, yet the proposal offers no ideas or plans to improve walkability outside the property lines. This new neighborhood is big. With more than 750 homes, the proposal offers no ideas or plans to optimize traffic flow or improve pedestrian safety in South Braintree Square specifically, or on the immediate streets surrounding the property. This new neighborhood is in the center of town, and yet this proposal offers limited access to its amenities. The by right zoning granted by the town, I believe, must be met with community benefits that meaningfully and substantively measure up to the goals of the MBTA Communities Act. What might that look like? Imagine finishing a meal with your family at Southside or the Tree, and then taking a pleasant stroll to Foley's for ice cream, and then onto the Riverwalk. It's less than a 10-minute walk. But when was the last time it occurred to you to do that? What would compel you to walk instead of drive? Requiring significant and meaningful improvements to the streetscape that will encourage walking along both sides of the property to the family-run businesses in and around the square, I believe is both essential and fair, given the size, scope, and zoning of this project. But for those times when residents must drive, what should be done about the documented daily traffic jams and intersection near misses in the greater South Braintree Square area? I believe an expanded traffic study should be required, not only to understand current conditions, but also to compel imaginative, substantive improvements that will optimize traffic flow and improve safety. Incremental traffic is an inevitable trade-off of new growth, but it doesn't mean we should be satisfied with the status quo. Residents and businesses deserve real solutions that will accommodate this new growth. Finally, let's talk about rolling out the welcome mat, because we will be prepared to welcome the next Little League slugger, favorite teacher, and beloved volunteer to these new homes. And residents have suggested many benefits they'd like to see as a way to integrate this new neighborhood into the broader community. And I'd like to highlight a few of them for the board. Community-wide access to the 3 proposed dog parks. Commissioning of public art, performing arts, and events along the Riverwalk. Plaques or other markers acknowledging the historic significance of the site, and support for a long-sought railroad quiet zone. A new neighborhood in the center of town is a transformational opportunity to implement our long-held aspirations for creating welcoming, walkable, and communal spaces, to boost Braintree's beloved small businesses, and to add vibrancy to a long-blighted property. I am so excited about all that lies before us, and I am in support of this effort. And I urge the board to seize this opportunity and make this project the best it can possibly be for Braintree. Thank you for your time and for your service to the community.
Thank you. And thank you, Councilor Baraka, for all your work on the site from long before there was a proposal through today. All right, we are at 9 o'clock. I know that we do have quite a few people who are waiting patiently. Thank you. I think, I definitely want to give the members an opportunity to talk about what they would want to see incorporated also. But I think unless there's something that somebody brings up, I think instead of having a long back and forth tonight, maybe we can get our comments out there, and then the next meeting come back and we can address them point by point. But again, if there's any members that have any questions they want answered tonight, of course, feel free. Member McCamey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple questions. My first question came up from some of the residents. It's been around for a long time, and that question is, why isn't this a mixed-use development? Is it just the MBTA Act? I've heard tell, for example, that Messina didn't want to have other competing commercial property there. So, Mr. Marinelli, if you could clear the air, for the viewers and for the residents, why isn't this a mixed-use project?
So this is as has been stated by some of the speakers, the MBTA Communities Act is a housing law. It is rooted in the fact that housing production was depressed in Massachusetts. And finally, two administrations did something about it. The Baker administration, the Healy administration, and Section 3A was passed. Section 3A is a creation of housing. And as some of the support comments noted, not everybody can afford a single-family home. Apartments are a way of people entering into the market and having a place to live, particularly with the affordable component, and also for empty nesters to be able to stay in the Braintree community. Moreover, we're supporting local businesses. That's part of it. It has nothing to do with anti-competition and the current owner trying to restrict it. By the way, if you had Daryl's restaurant off of Hancock Street, it probably would go bankrupt because there's no view corridor there. And generally, mixed-use sites are 100 acres, like some of the venues, Hanover Crossing. Then you look at University Avenue. This is a residential site with a beautiful open space amenity. That is the optimal use of the property. But to your point about the regulations for the use of the housing law do state in 760 CMR 72.02 that the following are examples of requirements that would be deemed to be inconsistent with as-of-right use. Number 3, a requirement that multifamily use must be accompanied with commercial or other uses on the same lot or as part of a single project. Mark can speak to this, but Trammell Crow builds luxury Class A residences. That's what this site is all about. Close to the MBTA, within walking distance, the purpose of our own ordinance, passed by the council, passed by Councilor Barrett on the council, Section 616, multifamily use by right. That's the whole intent of the law, and we believe that we are optimally fulfilling and have optimally designed conceptually the right thing for the site. And I will add that we've had many different developments, and you always see, for example, Landing 53. The last place to rent was the commercial space. The 172 units, because of the need for housing, filled up immediately. The 11,000 square feet was the last to rent. It took four years, and we even had to have some zoning changes to allow a veterinarian to occupy the commercial space.
If I could just add on, I understand the intent, the primary intent to have housing, but I guess my point is if Trammell Crow or whoever occupies the space wanted to do mixed use, they could have that option. So maybe I'd like to hear from him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark Baranski. To be perfectly honest, the reason that we don't do mixed use in any of our developments unless required is because it doesn't work economically. It creates parking loads that are difficult to accommodate. And as Frank alluded to on other projects, where I have done mixed use, after 3 years, those spaces are still empty. The occupancy load of people can't support a business. It can support a chunk of the business, but not all the business. So then you need other people coming from the other parts of the neighborhood, which is great, but they have to know it's there, which was kind of mentioned. You have to. It just hasn't ever worked when we've done it, and we have in fact done it. You know, I'm a big believer that focusing on the connectivity to Hancock, getting people to Foley's, getting them to the Olympian, Boss Bar, all those great places, that's better for those businesses. And frankly, our residents can have great positive economic impact on those businesses that rather than creating a business that it's never worked. I mean, we've done it and it just hasn't worked.
Well, I appreciate the honesty. And while you're up there, I think another question which I've heard and has come up is why isn't, do any of your projects have condominiums versus just apartments?
That's a great question. After the GFC in 2008, we no longer do condominium projects. Condominium projects almost put many residential developers out of business. It's not the business model that we pursue. We are a Class A luxury rental developer.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
I'll just ask one other question, which is we've had several projects lately come to the board the past couple years, and some of those projects don't seem like they fit in. They don't, certain residents have made comments that it doesn't look this way. For example, there's projects in Braintree Square. It doesn't look like it fits into that town atmosphere. And of course, we haven't seen all the elevations yet, but I would just encourage you, and Mr. Marinelli, he's lived here all his life as well, just take a look around. I would hope it would be something that Councilor Berkey talked about, we can be proud of, and that it looks good, and it's sort of, people want to be proud of something, but really, some of these projects have not looked the best that they possibly could. So here's an opportunity, as she said, and I would just encourage you, and I'm not trying to insult your architect or anything, but really take a look and hear from the community.
Understood. Thank you for your comments, and thank the board and the public for your time. I think that when you look around, we do have developments that do a good job with the architecture, and we intend to do that here. And as you noted, I am a resident, and we care about that. So we will note those comments, and we'll be meeting with the planning director and working through some of the comments. The peer reviews, for those that commented on traffic, we're very confident in the report that Bob Michaud gave tonight. For those that commented on the fiscal analysis, we're very confident in the fiscal analysis. The school-aged children has already been deducted. The number of children in the Braintree schools has been reduced by 619, a 10.6% drop in enrollment. So all of that's been taken into consideration. These are very thorough, comprehensive reports that are being peer reviewed. So we look forward to the next meeting and working with the planning board to get a good approval and do what the law is supposed to do. And this site is not for everyone. Let's face it. I mean, the town is actually quite fortunate to have the expertise and the resources, again, I live here, of Trammell Crow, because this is going to be a $300 million investment in the town. And to that point, we have a situation where the current administration inherited an $18 million debt, and if you don't produce new real estate taxes, then you don't have the money to pay increasing municipal expenses. Real estate taxes associated with new development and redevelopment are 71% of the tax levy 71% comes from real estate taxes. Because we didn't have that and we had a deficit, every business and every resident had to pay increased taxes. I feel it. I own a building that's in a commercial zone, and I own a home and another home. And so, you know, we've all stepped up with the override, and it would be good to see development, redevelopment of properties where new revenue is generated, because we have to have $178 million each and every year and growing, because municipal expenses continue to grow, and that needs to be offset by increased revenue. So the economic factor here is very important as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Madam Chair.
I guess the observation is that the town of Braintree and Trammell Crow are in a partnership, and if this doesn't go well, the town of Braintree has to live with it for 50 to 100 years. And Trammell Crow, what is your process for you know, how long do you stay with a project before you move on to the next one? Or how do you sell your projects to a real estate investment trust or a pension plan, or do you hold them in a portfolio, or how does that work in your company?
Yeah, thank you for the question. As we noted earlier, this privately held company, the Crow family does have the right to invest on projects. They typically invest in about 10% of the projects we do across the nation. As of this time, our investment partner is Liberty Mutual Insurance, which is headquartered in downtown Boston. Their intention at the end of this project to hold this or to sell this to a REIT or a pension fund or some other asset holder, I couldn't speak to that right now. They'll have that optionality as we get the project built and stabilized. So I would say, broadly speaking, with Trammell Crow, about 10-15% of the buildings we build are held in portfolio. The rest are sold. They're sold, again, to pension funds, to investment, large investment entities, REITs. I guess what's important to note is an entity that's buying a $300+ million asset is highly, highly incented to manage that asset well, maintain it well. So the stewardship of the asset, whether it's us or it's someone after us, is always going to be good because the financial pressures brought on board by that acquisition.
Second question then would be, help me with the phase 1, phase 2 thing. Is there a period of years or time, or when does phase 2 get built versus the other buildings in phase 1?
It's about a 12-month lag we expect between closing on phase 1 and starting construction, and then closing on phase 2.
So if phase 1 doesn't rent as quickly as you thought, it wouldn't affect the construction?
We would already be, we will not be anywhere, we won't be done with any of the units on phase 1. That is not the decision-making factor that structured the phasing. We're buying both phases. The gap is for other reasons.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Member Kinahan?
One thing that stood out to me was the 3 lots. So it appears that essentially the design is to account for the cap of 325 per lot. Would that be correct?
Yes.
That's the intention?
And then because of other certain percentages, that 975 gets reduced to about 930, I think. But we're like 80% of that at 752, with no intent to build more. This is the final project, final development.
So this might be something that I should talk to Peter about individually, but in your experience, is it common practice for a project like this to be broken up or remain in lots like this in order to essentially get around that lot limit of 325?
We can have Nick address it as a project engineer, but the land mass of any development is always looking at the zoning and saying what number of lots is possible here and what is practical. I will add that if you look at section 616 in the table, the minimum lot size is 25,000 square feet. So nobody tried to do, 30 or 40 lots here. 3 is a reasonable number, and it integrates well as a comprehensive whole.
Okay, thank you. That's all for now.
Thank you. All right, I just had a couple things taking a look at the presentation and some of the community comments that were received in writing and tonight. And I first just want to start off and say thank you for the comprehensive presentation and all the work that's been put into this. I can tell that there has been a lot of time spent, and whether some people agree or disagree with how it's laid out, you can tell that there was a thoughtfulness in putting it together. I do have some reservations with the way that the river does appear to be part of the apartment complex at the end, with the apartments on both sides of it. And I understand that that, in many ways, was probably part of the thought process when the easement was put into place. I understand that that area can be used for your open space, but the site does look a little bit tight outside of what is that easement area. And I do think it makes it more difficult for the community to really use the Riverwalk in the way that was really thought about. I don't know, that being said, what the answer to that is in the scheme of this site. I'm not really sure how the food truck circle would work in reality, with the parking being more or less behind it, and it seems a little bit awkward, and then you still need to sort of walk along Plain to get to the Riverwalk also. So I don't know if there's the ability where Building 1A is, or saying it another way, where the RMV site is currently, whether there's the potential to put any commercial there, which would allow more community to go to the site without being that first floor retail that I think, I agree, doesn't typically work in residential buildings. But, potentially there's a possibility to do something there. Or even just a pavilion or picnic tables or something that gives it a little bit more oomph to being a public resource where people can use the river more easily. Whether it's something there or somewhere else on the site where there's a connection without walking along Plain Street. Or if you look at it and that can't be done, at least some pedestrian friendliness between the site and the entrance along Plain Street. I think, as Councilor Baraka had mentioned, some of the pedestrian areas all around the site also should be looked at a little bit closer. As you said, the intent of the MBTA zoning was to create housing. The state tried it in a number of ways, through 40B, through 40R, through all these different things that just didn't work. And so they said, all right, well, we're going to do MBTA and run with that. But I think with that, it did give the town some ability to work in something that worked for the town. And so Braintree put in a fairly high number of units that could go on the site for this particular site, as opposed to what was required. And they also included in there that some commercial uses, including restaurants, are by right. So I think that the spirit of the way Braintree put that ordinance in effect and the lot limits, I do think that's something that should be looked at a little bit closer to see if there's anything that can be worked out. The pedestrian updates, the crosswalk over to Jonathan's Landing, I think looking at what could be done to enhance the safety there, as was talked about tonight. There was mention of it tonight, and then in quite a few of the written correspondence, whether there's any possibility of having a bridge or something over the train line to get to what I'll call the Jake and Joe's Plaza, because I don't know what it's called. But to make it easier to get to the train station and to help with that connection all around. I don't know. You could go on Hancock and go up that way through the other entrance or emergency entrance, whatever that is. But I think that would help with the pedestrian flow. The traffic analysis, the peer review asked for additional study areas that I think make a lot of sense, and also a Saturday midday, particularly as it relates to South Braintree Square. I know there was a letter from Southside that was put in with some concerns about that also, as far as how all good that there's more people going to be walkable, but also just looking at those areas to see if we need to do anything now. And let me just see. I think that was basically it. I think the presentation was good. I think there's obviously peer review going on. There's a lot of work to do to iron out the details, but I'm happy to see that something's happening with this site. I think it took a lot of people to bring it to this point, and so, thankful for all of that.
Thank you. And I think the peer reviewer on traffic did have some comments about sidewalk improvements. I know that I walk that area regularly, and there is sidewalk on Hancock Street, and then there's sidewalk on Pearl, and then there's sidewalk on Marha, and there's sidewalk on Plain. So the whole circumference does have sidewalk. The condition can be looked at. And I think in fairness to TCR, we never approached this as anything but the boardwalk being a public amenity. That conservation easement, as the chair pointed out in answer to one of the questions, has been it was participated in by the seller of the property, the Messina Enterprises entity. They had the conservation easement when this agreement was reached. It was already part of the whole layout of the property. So we're respectful of the conservation easement, and I think when you do go out there, as I have many times, you see that the boardwalk is actually, it has significant separation from the buildings that are proposed, and topographically on the Hancock Street, it's higher. So that adds to the fact that I don't believe the public will ever be discouraged from using the boardwalk. It is an amazing resource for our town and for the region, and the fish ladder, as everyone has commented upon. I think one of the things that can be improved is for whatever governmental entity is responsible to make sure that the signage is there, that people can appreciate, that they can walk there. Maybe we can help in that respect if given the permission to do so, but it needs to be more advertised for the public to be able to go out there and see how beautiful it is. We're providing the parking, platooning those spaces to make it possible for the public to be invited in and to use it. We want that. And we're adding a trail, We heard some of the comments tonight that sounded like they were actually discouraging public use. No food truck, no additional trail, but we're all on board with the public using the public amenity. It's a beautiful part of the whole site, and the fish ladder is amazing. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Do you have the date for the September meeting for continuance? Anybody?
9th.
9th, okay.
Yep.
All right, any last questions while we're here? All right, so be looking for a motion to continue to September 9th. Motion by Member Kinahan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. Okay. Does anybody need a quick break? 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to do a 5-minute break. It's about, let's see, we'll be back at 9:33, according to my watch.
trying to call this stuff up.
Oh, yeah.
And I wish I'd had this before.
Oh, yeah.
We're just warming up. It's 9:30. Oh, sometimes I drive my feet.
All right, I know everybody's still getting back to their seats, but it's because we have to read the legal notice, and that'll take some time. Just go ahead and move on to the next one. 400 Franklin Street, Planning Board File 2507. Once our director gets back to his seat, if you don't mind reading the legal notice on that one.
Yes, 1 minute. Notice is hereby given by the Planning Board under provisions of MGL Chapter 48, Section 9 and 11 of the Braintree Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 135, Articles 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 11, and 14, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, August 12, 2025, at 7:15 at the Braintree Town Hall. Please note, it is 9:35. The Planning Board will consider the applicant for a special permit, in quotations, 135-601, permit use in district, and site plan approval review filed by Escapology of Braintree, LLC, care of Attorney Carl R. Johnson III, 35 Braintree Hill Office Park, Suite 103, Braintree, Mass. 02184, applicant. The applicant is seeking a special permit and site plan review to allow for the interior renovation and build-out of an indoor escape room. Improvements will develop a place of amusement or assembly in the existing 3,977 square foot retail space located on the ground floor. The property is located at 400 Franklin Street and is within the general business zoning district, shown on Assessor's Map 1022, Plot 14. The lot area is 3.25 acres. All application material is allowed and available for all folks to come into Town Hall at regular business hours to see, and it has also been posted on the town website.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will turn it over to the applicant.
Just a correction, Madam Chairman. For the record, my name is Carl Johnson. I represent Donald R. McLaren Jr., who's the manager of Escapology of Braintree, LLC. He is really the applicant, apparently, because I was paying for the ad on the thing, it was listed as the applicant, so. Escapology of Braintree LLC is a franchise of Escapology of the Northeast. This is a special permit application and site plan review to operate a recreational place of amusement or assembly in a general business district, as was previously introduced by the planning director. The proposed Escapology game room to consist, it's getting late, of 8 themed game rooms in 3920 square feet. According to the architect's plan, it deviates a little bit from what was advertised. It's an existing interior space at 400 Franklin Street and a store unit that was formerly occupied by Massage Envy. Submitted with the application are architectural plans of the existing floor plan and the proposed game room floor plans designed by Gavin and Sullivan Architects, an architectural firm with experience in game room design. The 8 game rooms are individually themed and designed and licensed to be used by Warner Brothers, for example, for some of the themes. Mr. McLaren operates Escapology game room facilities in Tewksbury and in Waltham, Massachusetts. We've included, as a testament to the manner in which Mr. McLaren operates his amusement facilities as a family-friendly operator, his social and charitable community involvement are cited in 2 letters of recommendation from a member of the Tewksbury Select Board and from a member of the Tewksbury Planning Board. This room, again, this is only an interior renovation. There are no changes to the exterior of the building or anything else. And after, I'm going to ask Mr. McLaren if he would. We submitted a lot of different items as far as what these themed rooms, how they operate, but Mr. McLaren has extensive experience with this, and I would like him to describe to the board and answer any questions they may have about the particular operation and excuse me, the operation of the game rooms, so that you can understand that it's mostly a challenge that is mental in nature, solving puzzles, teamwork, to get out of it. These are not physical escape rooms that some of them do exist nationwide. Mr. McLaren.
Hello, Board. My name is Donnie McLaren. So as Carl alluded to, yes, I operate multiple escape rooms right now in Tewksbury and Waltham. I also operate a 45,000 square foot family entertainment center, Wamisit Lanes in Tewksbury, so I'm very familiar with the operations of entertainment and trying to provide fun for the community, so we do get heavily involved in that sense. To describe the concept, you essentially get locked in a room for 60 minutes, pay us to do that, and try to get out. You're not technically locked in, but we have different themes. Like Carl said, we have exclusive licensing with Warner Brothers, so we do have a Scooby-Doo room that we currently have in Tewksbury and Waltham. We have a Batman room that we have in Waltham as well, and a couple different themes. So they're very immersive. They're pretty exciting that we take advantage of all the different innovations and technology that's out there. They're ADA compliant. We can make adjustments to the rooms to make it easily for some that would like to participate. So it's a great experience, and we've been operating in Tewksbury since 2017. We opened our Family Entertainment Center in 2015. We'll be celebrating our 10th anniversary this year in November. And Waltham is about 12 months old as we stand here today. And I would love to take any questions that you guys may have, give you a little bit of insight. I know we inundated you with a lot of information there, but feel free.
All right, thank you. Member McCamey?
Yep, thank you. No food and beverage?
We will be looking to acquire a liquor license. Food will be not handled in-house, possibly catered in. As of right now, the current operations at both facilities, we sell bags of chips or, Scooby snacks, and then we work with local businesses to create a menu for them to cater and bring it in themselves. We don't physically handle it ourselves.
Right. So I'm just looking at your layout here, and when you say you're going to apply for a liquor license, so I come in, get a six-pack of beer or something and go into the room, how's that going to work?
Yeah,
or are you going to actually serve me? And are you currently doing that in your other locations?
Correct, yes. Both facilities have full liquor licenses. You come in, we only do one beverage per person at a time, and you're allowed to bring them in the room if you want. And we do our liquor IDs, those are required. All of our staff is 18 plus and tip certified, so we meet all the requirements there, and we go even a little above and beyond with that as well.
Okay. And what are your normal hours of operation?
So we are typically open during the summertime. Things can change, or holiday vacations. We could open as early as 10 a.m. and close as late as midnight. Typically, our last game might be 10:30, but because it's an hour long, people are there till 11:30, and then we would close up and be closed privately and publicly by midnight.
And how many people can you accommodate per room?
We look to about 6 to 8 people per room.
6 to 8. Okay. So all the renovations you're going to do is just internal, putting up some walls and decorating and
Correct. Yep. Well,
so on and so forth.
we'll be renovating the inside of the building.
Right.
Outside of just putting signage on the building, and
right.
That's about it.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Member Kent?
Just, what's your demographic? I mean, do you have different programs for different ages, or how does that work?
Yeah, so we have, believe it or not, children get involved, and it's a lot of fun. I have a 9-year-old son, and he goes in there, even goes into the game mastering room behind, and he gets involved. And as much as we would like them to get involved, or as little as they would like us to get involved, we have a hint system that's on the wall. So if the kids or adults or whoever's in there would like less hints, more frequent hints, doesn't matter. We can communicate through TV and a tracking system that way. So I would say that the best is about 8 years old to 80 years old. We've had all kinds of different things go on in there. We've had wedding proposals. We've had people hide rings in some of the puzzles and stuff like that. So it's very, very entertaining, very interesting. We've seen families come in the same car and want to leave in different cars when they're all done. So it's a lot of fun to watch.
Okay, thank you.
Member Kent? No. All right, yeah, and mine were answered also. Thank you. All right, so I think we do have a staff report here. We don't have a draft decision. It is a special permit, so we do need a draft decision, or we need a decision to be able to sign off on. But that being said, actually, I forgot, Director Matchak, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I have no additional comments. I think obviously my staff report and the comments from Carl, I think really this is the existing building. And I just press the fact that the existing building, the parking all checks out. It's really a use special permit plugging into the existing facility. So.
All right, and before I get too far ahead of myself, it is a public hearing. If there is anybody here on 400 Franklin Street.
If I might, Madam Chairman, there's a second part of the special permit. By the way, the plans do not show anything other than the, as you see, proposed room. It doesn't show anything about an alcohol license, what's before you on those plans. If there is something that would have to come in that with different plans would have to be presented. I just want to point out on site plan review, this site, as you were saying, has adequate facilities for access, egress, parking, but it's also a little unique that stormwater management in 2000, well, there was a house that was to the left of this site at 376 Franklin Street that was rezoned from residence that Mr. Messina owned to business, and that is the parking lot. When Panera came in, they expanded a little bit. But more importantly, they put in a massive stormwater treatment system. And that stormwater treatment system solved a lot of problems at Five Corners, that there were surcharges that were on Franklin Street and so forth. Also manages the parking lot. And what's unique about it is it empties in a natural course after the solids are removed and the stormwater has been treated. It goes into a small brook, and that's next to the building at 400 and 392 Franklin Street. That is a large green space, and that green space was put in as part of the Sunrise development project in the back of it. It shares parking lots in the front and the back, so there's adequate parking. And the important part about that is it's several acres, and it's a green space that is in the conservation easement that was done in 2009 to the Braintree Conservation Commission. And that buffers the Newport Avenue residents from the activities at 400 Franklin and as well as Sunrise. So as far as site plan review, there are several decisions that incorporate site plan review to adequately park and to treat the stormwater. So I just want to put that on the record because those were granted by the planning board many moons ago now, I guess.
Okay, great. Thank you for that clarification and additional information also. So 400 Franklin Street, is there anyone with comments on that? No. Okay, so we are going to need to continue to September. We could do it two different ways, I think. One way, we could take a vote tonight on the application and then have planning staff put it together in a decision, and we could do more of a formality to vote on it in September where you could or could not attend if you wanted, or we could continue it and then have the full vote.
The past decisions, for example, on the Golf 18 that was done at the South Shore Plaza was a little bit more comprehensive because it had alcohol and they had some conditions in there. But I think just minor standard conditions would be adequate in this case, as indicated by the staff report in which it strongly supported the application. So in the site plan review, as I said, it meets all the criteria. So I'm sure I can work with Peter on any conditions that would come up. So if you would take a vote tonight, it would be helpful. It would be the opportunity to give Mr. McLaren with the landlord the ability to move forward and start the demolition on the interior and get things going. He has a deadline to meet this fall. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And so, any follow-up questions? All right, so I think with that, we'll be looking for a motion to approve this special permit and site plan review with standard conditions to be drafted. But do you have something to add?
Louise just whispered to close the public hearing. No, we're not going to close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Because we're going to look at the decision. But I think it's just more of a motion to vote, and then we'll move forward.
Right, yep, makes sense. All right, so first motion, we'll look for a motion to close the public hearing. Motion by member Kinahan, do we have a second? Second by member Kent, all those in favor? Aye. All right, and then there's no correspondence, right? So, and then the next motion would be
to
approve the special permit and site plan review, and direct planning staff to write up a decision for vote on September 9th.
Correct.
You want to make that motion? We have a motion by member Kent. Do we have a second? Second by member Kinahan. All those in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks everybody for their patience. We are moving on now to 160 Granite Street, Planning Board File 2508. I just need to have him read the thing first. All right, Director, you're up for another legal notice.
I'm going to give myself credit. I read the last one better than the first one. But it's that time of night. Notice is hereby given by the Planning Board under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and the Braintree Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 135, Articles 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, and 14, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, August 2nd, 2025, at 7:15 p.m. Please note this hearing is started at 9:53 in the Braintree Town Hall. The Planning Board will consider an application for a special permit 135601 permitted use in district and site plan review filed by Bay Shore Athletic Club, care of Timothy Dowling, 14 Plain Street, Braintree, Mass. 02184. He is the applicant. The applicant is seeking a special permit and site plan review to allow for the interior renovation and build-out of an athletic club fitness center. Improvements will develop a place of commercial recreation in the existing structure. The property is located at 160 Granite Street and is within the Highway Business Zoning District shown on Assessor's Map 2056, Plot 6H. The lot area is 3.88 acres. All application material can be found at Braintree Town Hall during regular business hours and also accessible online.
Okay, thank you. All right, and we do have a staff report on the request for a special permit and site plan review. We'll turn it over to Mr. Dowling if you have anything that you want to add.
Am I supposed to?
I can maybe just a short
evening.
summary
Yes.
of why you're here, why you're
Good
moving,
evening,
and
Madam Chair, the board. My name is Timothy Dowling. I'm here to request a special permit for my business that's at 14 Plain Street in Braintree to be moved to 160 Granite Street. It's a business I've had for quite a while now. It's been in Braintree for 22 years. We'd like to keep it that way. This site is kind of perfect off the highway, adequate parking, noise, all that stuff, not a problem. The building is ideal for this gym. That's it.
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
So Tim and I kind of been working together last month. South Shore Bay Club, I think, as we all kind of know where it is located, it is within the Armstrong development. And so obviously we heard the application of Trammell Crow tonight. So in theory, Tim and Bay Shore Club, they do want to stay in Braintree, and this is obviously a viable location closer to the highway, has greater square footage, if I'm correct, and obviously right now it fills a vacant building. So I think it's kind of we're taking a Braintree business that's been here for 20 years, a successful Braintree business, and we're obviously keeping that in town, we're retaining that in town, and we're putting that into a location that's currently vacant and that could use some upkeep and some maintenance. And I know Tim's going to do a build out if successful, and obviously clean up make sure the property looks good and kind of takes on another life beyond its former retail use, which was first a linen and things, and then it became Bye Bye Baby, and it's been vacant for, I believe, about 2 or 3 years now. And so I just kind of want to add that note.
all right. Thank you. I'll turn it over to see if there's any questions here. Member McCamey, any questions?
Thank you. Seems like a large space. Is this much larger than what you have now?
No, I'm actually in almost 50,000 now. It's actually smaller.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that.
It's a big gym.
Yeah. Okay. I have no other questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Member Kent?
No questions?
Member Kinahan?
No questions.
All right, none for me either. So again, sort of like we did with the last one, we will need to put together a full decision, so we can vote on it tonight and then have the decision prepared. You and Director Matchek can continue to work together during that process, and then we can come back in September, and if you're comfortable with the draft decision, you could not attend, or you could attend, or however you decide to.
I came very prepared, but I wasn't as prepared as that, so I'm like...
No, we do have
It's
the
getting late.
information. It is getting late, and we do have, there's two things in your application, the site plan and the special permit, and there are a series of findings that we need to make under the special permit. The information in the staff report and the information that we've received, I think, are sufficient to make those findings. So if you don't have anything else that you feel like you need to get out there, I think that we could just take a motion on this one also to approve the special permit and site plan, with planning staff to draft a decision and continue this to I'm going to back up because I'm doing the same thing I did last time, and I'm going to first make a Did I ask if there's public comment?
You
I
did ask
didn't.
public comment, yeah.
I don't know. I'm going to ask again just in case. 160 Granite Street, anyone here with comments on this? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion by Member Kinahan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Kent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll do a motion to grant the special permit and site plan review with planning staff to put together a written decision and continue this to September 9th.
So moved.
Thank you. We have a motion by Member Kinahan. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Kent. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
All right. And that brings us to our continued public hearing for 55 King Hill Road, Planning Board File 2504. And this one's continued, so we don't have a legal notice. So just when you're ready, you can go ahead and proceed.
Good evening. My name is Sean Hardy, professional engineer with Hardy and Mann Design Group, engineer for the applicant. We were here, or actually upstairs, but here a month ago to present an application for a grading permit. At that time, we were asked to make a few modifications, being moving the retaining wall off of the property line, providing some landscape screening of the wall, and to depict the fall protection that is proposed. So we made those modifications. I don't know if you have copies or you want me to put it up. I know it's hard to see from there anyway, but we did move the proposed wall off. We show a proposed 6-foot high cedar fence, and we showed some proposed plantings along the base of the wall.
I know I have a copy. Do you want?
And I also have the owner of the properties here. He'd like to speak as well.
Okay. Thank you. And I know we did receive a letter also, but yes, please just give your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Charles B. Almy, 55 King Hill Road. Sorry I wasn't here at last meeting. I'm up at about 3:45 in the morning, so this is killing me. First, I want to start with, dear members of the Braintree Planning Board, I just want to let you know that I wrote a letter and I gave it to Peter. Just writing concerning your property at 55 King Hill Road. I want to send my apologies. I had pulled some tree stumps. I pulled a few big tree stumps and I moved some earth, and that triggered a permit. I didn't realize that. I pulled them personally with an excavator. I have my hydraulics engineer's license, all that good stuff. I've been doing everything correctly. Got my building permit, got a fence permit, and then I was told you got to get a grading permit. And then I went forward and I got Sean Hardy. I had no idea I needed a permit for additional earth moved. Moving forward my projects, I'll check with the planning board for additional permits and any type of advice and what I should do. And I just want to thank you for your time and patience. I don't know how you all hold your bladder so long. Pretty incredible. My project seems so minuscule to some of these projects. It's a retaining wall. After seeing some of these projects, I feel like it should be bigger. Can I show you some pictures? Just so you can kind of get an idea, because it just gives you an idea of.
Yeah, please.
Just wait till you get to the microphone to talk, but you can drop them off here. Or
my first time doing this.
No, that's okay. It's a very awkward setup, the way this works.
Oh.
They want you to speak in the microphone, but I'll give you.
Oh, right. So this is a cellular stamped, pre-engineered concrete block. so it's cavitous, so they put stone in the block. I've actually helped somebody on a couple walls, and I've done a ton of research on the block. Very great for drainage. Also, they use Marafi paper, which is used, I'm sure you know, for around the stone. You leave the bottom empty, stops the dirt from penetrating into the crushed stone. And then geomat for anything. I'm probably do it 3 feet high and up. I want this wall to stay permanent forever. I'm 50 years old. I'll be there for the rest of my life. So if I live to, my dad's 86, if I live till 86, that puts me at, another 36 years on the property, and I'm not going anywhere. So I want everything I'm not burying any stumps. Everything's getting taken out so there's no, sinkholes in the future. One of the stumps is so big, I actually have the people doing the wall, I have to have them remove it. I couldn't even pick it up with a 15-ton excavator. So I know Mr. Aiello's concerns with the wall was drainage. Right now, my property, me and my wife, Kelly Rose's property, there's no buffer, so it drains down at a pretty constant slope. And there's never really been a problem with drainage, because I have probably about 100 or so feet from our yard to his yard of just grass. Right now, it's not grass, because I've been driving over it with, excavators and whatnot, but usually is nice grass. So this wall will, if there was any problem, this wall will mitigate it. They're bringing in 250 to 300 tons of crushed stone. This wall is going to be built right. It's built by Danny Mahoney. He's doing MBO precast. They're doing about 5 walls in town right now. They already done a couple walls in town. They're reputable. They do a great job. This wall's over, I know these projects are like millions, but this wall's over $100,000. It's a lot of money for me and my family. That's a lot of money. So just want to, if you look at that picture that was just passed around, some of my concerns from the meeting were when Mr. Aiello and his brother, when they push snow down the driveway, they push it onto our yard, which I'm fine with. He's my cousin. My grandfather and his father were brothers. A lot of stuff's gone over the years. It's never been a big deal. And it still isn't a big deal. But if I'm going to put in arborvitaes or shrubbery and I'm going to take money out of my pocket, then the snow getting pushed over there is going to kill it. And it's like working against each other there. Well, you know what I mean? It's just, so I know it was proposed to move the wall back 3 feet. I was going to move it back a foot. So I was going to ask you if we could meet in the middle, move the wall back 2 feet. I'll put up some rose bushes, call it a day. When he walks out of his house, he'll see about 3 to 4, maybe 3.5 feet of wall. Out the back of the yard is mixed use, so it's industrial. His brother has like a industrial construction, bunch of scrap, cars. He's got machines and whatnot. It's a construction yard, which is fine with me. I don't really care. I'm just going to put up the wall and a fence, and I'm good. And then I can. But as far as that's what I was asking, is if that is something that if I can meet you or meet him or we can meet halfway. That's all I'm asking. And then I don't have to go on his property. Everything's peaceful, and there's no conflict. I just want to. I'm moving my dad in. He's 86 years old, and that's one of the reasons I'm trying to do this. My dad's back there. He's tired.
The wall at the front is 2 feet high, and at the back it's 6 feet high, just as clarification.
Okay.
I don't, yeah, that's
And
all I got to say. I'm doing everything by the book, and that's all I don't know what else. If I'll answer any questions. Oh, I listened to your stuff online. I think Mr. McCamey had a question about I have a walkout basement. That was one of your last questions. Is there a walkout basement? Our houses are the same because my grandfather and his father built the houses. So they're like almost identical houses. But my grade comes right out the back door of the basement and walk right back out. Never had any problems with water. Very lucky in that sense. So I know that was a question. I just want to answer it. And everything that's being built. Right now, I moved a ton of, so we dug a foundation. I want to just show them this so they can see. And I imported a lot of stone because I didn't want a mud pit in the yard. And the stone actually helped with the dust. We still created a decent amount of dust last time. Me and my wife were watering it down, and it was just a dry weekend. So, you know, I did import a decent amount of stone. And I also had a lot of stuff. I had some stuff. I didn't export any material other than asphalt. We did about 4 triaxles full of asphalt, which I had to pay for because you have to get rid of it properly. But that was all that was exported. So the plan is to actually use everything on the property within the property. And if I have to export anything, then I'll let the building inspector know, or I'll let Peter know. But truthfully, between digging the foundation for the garage and those pictures of the foundation for my father's in-law apartment, we dug it, and then we had that flood, and it kind of messed me up. I had to have someone come in and fix it because I rented the equipment and I had to give it back. So those pictures aren't imported. That's from the foundation. It was dug a little bigger because of that flood condition that we had. Mm-hmm. So I topped everything, and I did the straw wattle. Yeah, any questions? I'll answer them.
Yeah, I had a question also. The back corner, it looks like the topography all goes down to that back corner of the proposed wall. Are there any drainage concerns from your perspective? I know there's a lot of grass before you get to that corner. But
Yeah, it goes that way now. So it slopes generally that direction. That's the low point that exists. Mm-hmm. So by us creating the wall, flattening out the topography, that helps mitigate that. Certainly with any velocity. The wall also sticks up a little above the grade. And in addition to that, we're proposing 9 Caltech chambers to take the roof runoff and infiltrate that up through a 100-year storm. So we're reducing runoff that goes to that back corner in the proposed condition over the existing condition. But again, removing the house up to a 100-year flow helps reduce it. Flattening it out helps reduce it. And then the lip of the wall going around the property reduces it even further.
Okay, thanks. And I have a feeling Member McCamey will jump on this also, but if the contractor for the walls done a bunch of projects in Braintree, I'm sure he knew about this grading permit situation because it tends to jump up on a lot of people. And if you could just relay to them that if they could start telling their customers about it, it would probably make everybody's lives a lot easier. Okay.
Yeah, it's Danny Mahoney. He's actually the one who told me.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He's like, you can't do this. I'm like, I can't. And he's like, no. I'm like, all right. I thought it was part of, I just was told to Mr. McCamey that I thought
sorry,
it was,
if you're going to keep talking, you have to come to the microphone.
Sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt,
it's okay.
But Danny Mahoney did, that's why I'm here, because he's like, no, you need a grading permit to do this.
Okay, all right, I thought it was the other
And that's why I
way around, so.
apologized. I didn't, so there was nothing started on the wall. Because once I talked to him, he's going to be doing it, he's like, you know, you need to get it. So, and he actually was the one who referenced me to Sean Hardy.
Okay. All right, Member McCamey, any questions?
Well, I appreciate Mr. Alme owning up, to starting the work. This, as Mr. Hardy knows, this comes up a lot, and I give you a lot of credit for coming in and saying so.
Thank you.
I think I didn't know if the neighbors had, because they had a bunch of concerns. Mr. Modestino, I don't know if you had any comments. I'd like to hear your comments.
If I may, Michael Modestino representing Ron Aiello and his brother Roger. Well, we had concerns, obviously, at the last hearing on July 8th. Most of those concerns have disappeared, and that was as a result of the revisions that were done. Peter was good enough to send us the revised plan that Sean Hardy had put together, and we're pretty much satisfied with that, including the 3-foot from the property line. My client would prefer that it remain at 3 feet before the wall starts. It just would be a safer situation from my client's point of view. I mean, obviously, the concerns here with the dust control, number one, the erosion control, the drainage problems. My client feels a lot better now about those problems not surfacing and being major problems. The retaining wall is a good idea. But, you know, I don't want to get into the history of the thing, but this all started with doing the grading before the grading permit was allowed. So I don't even want to go there. We're satisfied with what he's said so far, and we trust that they're going to try to move forward and do the right thing. I do want to say one thing that I should bring up. At the last hearing, I raised the point of Mr. Preziosi, I called him. His name was Mr. Prezioso, in that he had reported to my client problems with dust control around his property. Turns out there was a mistake. He was never talked to. Somehow that information got conveyed to me, but it was some other neighbor that was conveying that information about the dust to him. So we apologize to Mr. Prioso for even mentioning his name, and I wanted to bring that to your attention. As far as, I mean, I think this can work. You know, no one was against his expansion of his house and creating a better home for his family. My client was just concerned about, you know, too much soil, too much at the back of the property, and hopefully that will not be a problem, and that's going to be dealt with. I'd ask if it's okay if my client came up and said something briefly.
Thank you very much. Good evening again. I'm only going to be 5 minutes. We have no problem with the project. We're happy as long as he stays within that 6 feet height in the rear of the property and 3 feet in off my property line, along my driveway and along my brother's backyard. Other than that, we're good. I'm sorry we had to take up so much of your time. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
And is there anyone else on 55 King Hill that would like to speak? Okay, all right. I'm bouncing all over the place. But Member Ken, any comments or questions?
I do not.
Member Kinahan?
So it seems like there's some discrepancy over the 2 to 3 feet, correct?
Right, so the plans that were submitted before tonight show the retaining wall being pulled back 3 feet, and a request was made tonight to shorten that time frame. We had discussed at the last meeting the 3 feet. So that's, I think that's the open question, whether we want to approve anything smaller than the 3-foot setback that was proposed on the most recently submitted plans.
I should also make a note, excuse me, on the revised plans, which are dated 7/21. It pulls the wall back 3 feet from the property line. It does a couple things, as we requested. It pulls the wall back 3 feet. It added a fence to the top of the wall, which is necessary in some areas, especially in the rear, from a building permit, from a building code standpoint. But they are now proposing a 6-foot wooden cedar fence. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I want to, so the retaining wall would propose to move in on the residential side.
Correct.
We did not move it on the back because that's the commercial side.
Okay.
We were told that was not as much a concern at the last hearing.
Okay. And then also you added, I counted 44 arborvitaes. Is that correct?
We called them out like 8 foot on center. I don't know the exact.
It looks like on the plan.
That's just on the right side, again.
Right side, then it takes, then there's,
The plan looks like the wall's back on the whole size span of the wall.
I concur with, the plan I'm looking at has it 3 feet off of the rear and the side.
The intent was to have it 3 feet off the side. I think that's what was requested, and we were at a foot off in the rear. It might, I think the hatch might have done something there. But yeah, I guess clarification from the board. We're asking for clarification, so there's that.
So, can I show you some pictures of what the yard looks behind me? Because if the rear of my property is industrial, I don't know why I'd have to go all the way down with arborvitae's. He doesn't live back there. I'll put him beside his house.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, and I understand
can-
there's an industrial property back there. I think,
Yeah, and as far as that, the property's split, it's mixed use, so I don't mind going down to his back driveway with arborvitae's, but I'm not gonna go all the way down and down the back.
I don't, excuse me, I don't think you have to do it here.
Or here.
Where would that be from where?
That would be from your tenant's house, like your rear driveway back.
just, it gets hard for BCAM. I mean, if you want, we can take a 2-minute break. You guys can talk about
No,
it.
I'm
and-
good. If I just want to say, I'd like to have him go down to the corner if you don't mind.
No, I'd stop him at your back driveway. If this can't be resolved, I can always come back with it. It's
Yeah.
mixed use on the rear of my on the rear of the property, it's mixed use. And,
What do you think?
I mean, I'll do them beside his house. And if you'd
Just a house
like to
in the
see
yard.
some pictures of what his brother's property looks like, I do have some pictures for
What-
you.
This is what you're
I think we should take a 2-minute and let them discuss it.
Yeah, well, why don't we do this? We need to continue it anyway, because we need to put a decision together with conditions. And so,
It seems
how
like they're
about
on
we
the right-
continue to the September 9th meeting? Perfect. You guys have a conversation or an email or whatever it might be, and just get to the planning director, both of your positions on it, so that we know we can draft up a decision and be ready to go and vote on it in September. Does that work?
Yeah, and I apologize, I know with the camera, you guys didn't see what they were both pointing at. I think they're very close to being in agreement. So-
Okay, yeah, and if we could close it out tonight, it might be a different story, but we do have to continue it anyway for the
Understood.
decision. So I think with that, we should leave the public hearing open just so we can take in that commentary and just do a motion to continue to September 9th. Do we have a motion? Motion by Member Kent,
Thank you for your time.
second. Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor? Aye. And so if you guys are in agreement, you don't necessarily need to come back in September. And if there's something to discuss, we can try to do it at the beginning, so you don't need to stay here for 4 hours.
And just to jump in, I will say, I've met with both parties, Mr. Aiello, Chase. We're all working together. And so I think if they can meet and Sean and Mike can kind of work out the details and get me the plan, I can circulate that. And then obviously we can get everything situated September 9th, and then we can all be happy with the plan moving forward.
All right.
My father asked me,
And we did, just to clarify, because we did continue already, so the hearing's technically closed, but a
That's fine. It's
procedural
just
question, you can,
It's
yeah,
just
go
a
ahead.
question for you, because my
Yep.
dad was like, why doesn't the citizens take precedent over the developers? That's what because he was like, I'm sitting here for all this time listening to all this, and he's like, so that's one of the questions from my 86-year-old dad,
It's a negotiation and a teamwork. All right, so we'll be looking for a motion to close the hearing tonight.
Continue.
Motion by Member Kent, do we have a second? Second by Member Kinahan, all those in favor? Aye. All right, thank you. Okay, 10:20. What's that? Yeah, that was to adjourn. I forgot about that. What should I? All right, hold on, hang tight. All right, don't go anywhere. So we need a motion to reopen the hearing tonight. Just the planning board meeting for August 12th. All right, motion by Member Kent, second by Member McCamey. All those in favor? Aye. All right, now we need a motion to continue 29 Messina Drive to September 9th.
So moved.
All right, motion by Member Kinahan. I'm going to take this a second by Member Kent. All those in favor? Aye. All right, and now a motion to close tonight's agenda. Motion by Member Kinahan, second by Member Kent. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.